It was late at night, a few taverns on the street were still lit, and inside a small tavern the atmosphere was incredibly lively. Cheers rang out endlessly for the frenzied dragon subjugation squad. Bottoms up, I can't believe they really defeated it. They've pretty much wiped out all the monsters, right? It's been 6 years since they last came back, hasn't it? Did you hear? The story of the subjugation squad, where 4 heroes achieved a great feat. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, a bare-chested man was deep in thought, swirling the wine glass in his hand. He sat quietly in a chair, gazing out the window. Suddenly, a gloomy voice sounded from behind. Honestly, what are you doing? Why are you drinking alone in this pitch-black room, no matter how terrible you feel? You're a hero, you can't act like this. The man sitting there was named Kalis. He smirked. How can our grudge be forgotten with just wine? What about the results of the magical tracking? Hearing that question, the newcomer, Romeo, was slightly startled and answered hesitantly, I still haven't fully absorbed the frenzied dragon's power. Just give me a little more time. Kalis stood up and looked down through the glass, his voice rising slightly. A little more time? Of course, it's not like we have any other leads anyway. We've been searching for several years after all. And Romeo's coat billowed in the wind as he stood silently watching Kalis's back, the man who killed him. His face was completely unreadable. Suddenly, Romeo noticed something beside him. It was a suitcase. Inside were a few sets of clothes and a small stuffed rabbit. Romeo put a hand to his chest, his expression faltering. I will definitely get my revenge. It was the middle of the night now, but there were still a few lights on along the street. As Kalis was tying a silk ribbon over his eyes, someone called out to him, Kalis, is everything all right? Even if it's nothing, you have to contact me. I'm willing to help you with anything at all. Kalis replied with a faint smile. Huberion, thank you. Huberion looked at him with sincerity and admiration. You're the hero who saved the world. It was a great honor for me to join the subjugation squad with you. If you didn't have a fiancé, I was even planning on introducing you to my niece. At his friend's teasing, Kalis flinched slightly and replied awkwardly, No need, it's fine. Huberion stood beside the carriage, holding the door open for him to get in. Anyway, take care. The carriage then rolled away, and Huberion stood watching it for a moment. Sitting inside, Kalis muttered to himself, What's the use of saving the world, when I couldn't even save that person? Meanwhile, back in the room, only Romeo was left standing there in a daze. His face shifted between light and shadow as he mouthed the words to himself, I want to see you so badly. All this time, Romeo had been staring at the stuffed rabbit he saw earlier in Kalis's suitcase. He carefully picked it up. Romeo knelt on the floor, stroking the rabbit and vowing to himself, Soon, I will find the human who killed you. I swear I won't do it with my own hands. This story was never supposed to go this way. Soon, day broke, and the sky was clear blue and peaceful. A large crowd was gathered at a bookstall, where the owner was excitedly promoting his books. Hurry everyone, buy one now! This book records the great feats of the team that defeated the Mad Dragon. It has exclusive reporter interviews, and there are even portraits inside. Plenty of people have already bought one. Each one is 1 gold coin. I'll take one. Here's your book, sir. After getting the book, the buyer immediately opened it right there on the street. Reading it, they wondered, what is this? It's nothing like what happened at all. The introduction is full of lies, too. Still, everyone worked so hard. I really want to see them all again, just like before. Now it's been turned into a story about someone desperately struggling to escape a deadly fate, and the childhood friend who despises me. A memory flashes through the strange person's mind. Beneath the cloak, her true identity is Lilia. Is it you? You killed my friend, and after killing the crown prince to become the sole queen, did you think you could live a life of luxury and happiness? Back then, Romeo had coldly condemned her. You killed Leo and Griffith, his eyes filled with hatred as he looked at her. Kalis's brows were tightly furrowed. Even though his eyes were blindfolded, you could still see his rage. Oscar was no different from the others. He said cruelly, We will never forgive you, Lilia Olaria. Lilia was in a complete panic. She wanted to explain, but no words would come out. No, it's not what you think. Suddenly, a mark appeared on her neck. It was like a magical curse binding her, preventing her from speaking. Leo, I can't speak the truth. The person you all knew was Leo, and the one you all shared those precious memories with was Leo. Now, he's no longer in this world. Even so, why must I die at the hands of my own childhood friends? The Holy Neutral Territory, Cruz Holy Land. A few years earlier, back then, the nuns were giving the children a tour of the Holy Land when suddenly someone screamed, Someone fell into the lake! It was Crown Prince Leo. Without a moment's hesitation, Romeo dashed forward. I'll save him. Kalis and Oscar could only watch him go. A moment later, Romeo pulled him to shore. A nun rushed over, kneeling down and crying out in alarm, Crown Prince Leo, Your Highness! Romeo looked frantic. He supported Lilia and yelled at the nun. He swallowed a lot of water. Do something, quick! The nun immediately opened a magic circle and placed her hand on Lilia's stomach. He started to cough up the water from the lake. After performing first aid, the nun turned to another and said, "I've used my divine power, but His Highness's body temperature is still very low." They began to panic, shouting to one another in fear. "Quick, get him to the infirmary. Prepare some warm water." Just then, Lilia's eyes snapped open, looking completely alert. She shouted, "I'm fine." She slowly sat up, her clothes clinging to her body. She shivered as she spoke. Thank you. I'm fine now. Just leave me alone for a bit." Back in her own palace, Lilia immediately stripped off her soaking clothes. She sat in a hot bath, muttering to herself, "It's okay. I'm okay now. Nothing's going to happen." She thought to herself, "No one saw anything. I'm not going to die. I'm so cold and so tired. But why? Why do I feel like I've suffered this same kind of pain, all alone, once before? That's right. Back then I was always stuck in a hospital bed, barely able to do anything except read romance novels or play games." In her past life, Lilia was a modern woman, lying in her hospital bed and tapping on her phone, adding this ingredient and that one. "The recovery potion is complete. Now I can cure the little girl in the village." You can do anything in a game. Gather 10 ingredients, and whether it's money or life, I can control it all as I please. Lilia tilted her head to look out the window, her voice filled with sadness, a stark contrast to her reality. But I could only wait for my own life to end, and at that moment, I beat the game on my phone. Lilia mumbled to herself again. "If I could be reincarnated, I want to live in the world of this game. Yes, that's what I prayed for. But if you were going to grant my wish, why couldn't you do it properly? What the hell is this? Even though being reincarnated is amazing in itself, why did I end up in the world of a novel instead of the game? This is the world of a romance novel I read in my past life, and I am now." She held up a mirror, gritting her teeth and wondering why on earth she had to become this character, Sir Lilia Olaria. Suddenly, voices called out from outside. "Your Highness Lilia! Lilia! Your Royal Highness! Are you feeling any better?" Lilia turned her face toward the door and called out, "I'm really fine. I just want to be alone for a while." The servants, not wanting to disturb her further, prepared to leave. "Yes, we understand. Please call us if you need anything." Afterwards, Lilia breathed a sigh of relief. She lay back on the bed, resting a hand on her forehead as she thought. The crown prince of the Olaria Empire had almost died. If their superiors found out, they would surely be put to death, so it's understandable why they were so worried. Fortunately, his life was saved by a priest's holy power. Lilia pursed her lips, looking quite uncomfortable. She looked at the seal on her palm, but since this was an unimportant side character, the novel didn't go into any detail about the crown prince. Is this life going to be a quiet and insignificant one too? The current emperor of the Olaria Empire is Lilia Olaria. His younger sister, Princess Iris, though she has passed away, fell in love with a royal guard of commoner descent while she was alive. He was the father of this body's owner, Lilia Olaria. Her father was a commoner, and her mother was Princess Iris, who, after giving birth to Lilia, passed away not long after during the internal chaos caused by the fight for the throne. With all of those factors piling up, Lilia became a forgotten royal, living in a small tower at the edge of the palace, wearing ill-fitting clothes on her frail body and eating meager meals prepared by a few maids. Her life was difficult but peaceful. That is, until Emperor Lidios appeared. Lilia was summoned to the palace, where the old Emperor Lidios sat on the throne. Upon seeing her, he roared with anger. "Iris, you fool! How dare you give birth to a daughter?" Then, he suddenly broke into a grin, a calculating and malicious smile. He looked down at Lilia as if she were a toy and said, "Perfect. Who else knows this child exists?" A servant stepped forward to answer. "Besides the handmaidens who serve her. Like us, no one else knows the truth." So, after hearing that, Lidios slowly rose from his seat. "Is that so?" He stepped down and grabbed Lilia's wrist tightly. Seeing the mark on her hand, he felt much more assured. "That's right. It truly is the mark of the bloodline pact. You really do carry the royal blood of the Olaria family. You're even the same age as my prince, Leo. Excellent. Kill all of these maids. Slaughter every last person who knows about this." A dragon awakened. At that time, the one who defeated the dragon and saved the world was the Holy Emperor of the Church of Dracania, along with 5 knights. After becoming heroes, the 5 knights each went on to establish their own separate empires. The Holy Emperor shared the dragon's magical power with them and recognized the authority of each emperor. 7. However, there was one condition. If the dragon were to one day be reborn, the knights must answer the summons of the Church of Dracania and form a bloodline pact. And so, time passed. A few years ago, a raging dragon egg appeared at the far end of the continent. It couldn't be destroyed by any means, and a dark magical power radiated from it. Under the egg's influence, vicious demonic beasts began to revive, and the entire world once again fell into chaos and unrest. 6. The Church of Draconia was forced to summon the descendants of the 5 heroes, the emperors of the 5 empires. To prepare for the day the dragon egg hatches, they would order the royal descendants to gather at the Holy Temple, which would be responsible for their upbringing and training. And just like that, the descendants of the heroes, 5 children bearing the mark of the pact, received a summons from the Holy Temple. After disposing of all the previous maids, Ledios drew his sword and chopped off Lilia's long hair. Those bastards at the Church of Draconia can finally get rid of the thorn in their side, and Leo will ascend the throne. Even though the Holy Temple is neutral territory, you can't rule out the possibility of assassins. How could I possibly let my only son go to such a dangerous place? Do you understand? From this moment on, you are the crown prince of the Olalia Empire, Leo Olalia. Thinking back on it now, Lilia gritted her teeth, feeling utterly resentful about it. That despicable emperor. What have you done to a poor girl like me? I mean, seriously, forcing me to enter the Holy Temple in the crown prince's place. I can't believe myself. I obediently listened to the emperor just because he fed me a ton of delicious food. I couldn't help it. I was so starving back then, my stomach felt like it was on fire. On the bright side, 1. According to the original story's plot, I was supposed to live a life full of misery. Soon after, I would have carelessly slipped, fallen into the palace lake, and drowned. In contrast, my time in the Holy Temple is relatively safe. Even if I were to find someone to help me, I can't reveal my identity as Lilia. If I ever let it slip, the silencing spell the Emperor placed on me would activate instantly. I would vomit blood and die in agony. However, as Lilia fell into despair, she said to herself, "There's really nothing to be happy about. Isn't this just the same as my past life? Am I supposed to tremble in the shadow of death, helplessly waiting to be abandoned to my fate in a story written by someone else? Just to sit still and wait to die all over again? Absolutely not. The body I'm in now is just Lilia at 7 years old. I still have time." At that thought, Lilia's resolve suddenly returned, and she confidently reassured herself. "I know how the story goes, so avoiding drowning shouldn't be that hard. I just have to stay away from the lake." But my eyes flashed with determination, so for now, I'll just focus on surviving here for the next 3 years. I absolutely cannot let anyone find out I'm an imposter. The next day, the weather was beautiful, and Lilia woke up early. She then got ready to tour the sanctuary, her face looking tense and a little unnatural. Such a small thing was no big deal, really. She had no idea someone was watching her from behind. That person was Romeo. He was leaning against a tree, watching her, and lost in thought. In the crew's sanctuary, besides the children bearing the contract seal from the 4 great families, children of nobles from other nations also lived there together. Lilia weaved through the crowds. She seemed to be trying to keep her distance from everyone. Sooner or later, they would have to defeat the mad dragon together, so everyone was trying to make friends early on. Class distinctions were strictly forbidden here, based on status, and occasionally, they even had to participate in activities like a sports festival. Other than the daily prayer time, life here is pretty comfortable, but compared to my old life, it's truly heaven. And most importantly, Lilia clenched her fists, her whole body trembling with eager anticipation. I can eat delicious food anytime just by going to the dining hall. Ahead of her, 2 girls were walking close together, whispering, "I'm not really used to the food here." That's so true, it takes so much effort just to get ready every morning. My hair. This is the first time I've ever had to wash my own hair. Why couldn't we bring our maids? I'm so sick of wearing the same uniform every day. I know, right? I miss my gorgeous gowns so much. Hearing their conversation, Lilia looked down at her own outfit and thought, I think it's fine. It's actually really comfortable. Could it be because I was so used to wearing rags? To prepare for the battle against the mad dragon, all the princes and nobles were gathered in this sanctuary. However, the novel barely mentioned their lives here, because the sanctuary wasn't the main setting and was only mentioned a few times in passing, that 3-year period. Without the male or female lead, had no mention of how Lilia lived after taking Crown Prince Leo's place in the sanctuary. Lilia stopped standing around and slowly walked inside, lost in her thoughts. In the story, Lilia drowns in a lake at the Imperial Palace, so I should be fine for these 3 years here. For now, I'll just live a proper life. But still, to die just by slipping and drowning in a lake, was the original Lilia a complete idiot? I guess I should be glad it wasn't an assassination. Suddenly, a voice snapped her out of her thoughts. Hey, you're all right now, aren't you? Slightly bewildered, Lilia turned to see who had spoken. It was Romeo. He rested his chin on his hand, looking at her with an amused glint in his eyes. He smiled and said, You seem to be doing just fine, huh? Lilia's cheeks flushed. He placed a hand on his chest, a smirk playing on his lips as he continued to speak. Yesterday you fell into the lake and almost drowned. I'm the one who saved you, you know? Lilia could only force a smile and mumble a reply. Of course, I remember, thank you. Suddenly she froze, her eyes widening as she looked at the person in front of her. That handsome blonde boy was that kid, Romeo Roseberry, the prince of the Roseberry Empire. He's one of the main characters in the dragon subjugation team. He fell for the female lead at first sight. In other words, he's a key character in the original story. If I remember correctly, he's a very gentle person with a refined aura. Seeing Lilia staring at him without blinking, Romeo spoke up. Hey, are you just gonna stare at me like that without saying anything? Are you mute? But Lilia still managed to maintain her smile. Thank you, really. But Romeo pressed his advantage. Oh my, thank me? Is that all? Aren't you the crown prince? A few words of thanks and that's it? Or is thank you the only thing you know how to say? Looking at Romeo's sly and cunning expression, Lilia couldn't believe it and started to feel angry inside. Gentle? Refined? How could I possibly see that in him? After that, she could only give in to Romeo's wishes. What do you want me to do? He replied with a smile. Of course, later when it's time for prayer, the priests will come looking for me. Just tell them I came over to your room to hang out and fell asleep. Remember to say you felt too bad to wake me up. After hearing this, Lilia's face fell a little. I thought you were going to ask for a real favor. Oh, so you're asking me to help you skip class? Seeing her attitude, Romeo began to explain. You're usually so well behaved and such a model student. Besides, you're the crown prince. Everyone will believe whatever you say. So, Lilia reluctantly replied, I get it. Romeo looked at her and chuckled. Really? I think we get along pretty well, don't you? She glanced to the side, her cheeks flushing in embarrassment, and she thought to herself, he has such a classy way of eating, but his personality is the worst. While I'm here, I have to make sure I eat a lot. After all, I'll only be at the Holy Temple for 3 years. Once I go back to the Empire, I'll be back to skipping meals. Suddenly, Romeo seemed to remember something and asked Lilia, by the way, do you have a pattern on your palm? I'm just so curious, do you really have one? Can you show me? She hesitantly agreed. Okay. As she finished speaking, she opened her palm for Romeo to see. He looked at the mark on his own palm and said, so, everyone really has one? Suddenly, they both froze. At the same time, they both looked ahead. The female students were all looking in one direction, all of them blushing strangely. This made Lilia curious. What's going on? Could this kid be? The people there, including her and Romeo, were captivated by the sight of a very handsome boy. He had a cold and unapproachable air about him. Romeo suddenly shot up, his expression souring. Griffith, I really hate that guy. Hearing him say that, Lilia felt a little curious and wondered to herself, hate him? Why? He's your future teammate in the dragon subjugation team, and he's the young prince of the Nisia Empire. He even becomes the emperor of Nisia later on, not to mention the strongest holy knight in history. However, his personality is cold, but his looks are out of this world. I can't believe he and Romeo don't get along at this point in time. Romeo rested his chin on his hand, tilted his head, and complained to Lilia, plus, he's so petty and dumb. Lilia said nothing, instead noticing someone else sitting quietly and eating alone at a table, a child with silver hair and red eyes. Could that be Oscar Harrisburg? He's a little older than me, but his build is even smaller. So this is what he looked like as a child? He looks so fragile now, but later on, he'll become the one readers call the Mad Emperor. Romeo was still rambling on, pointing in another direction, and him too. Kalis Asta. Lilia followed his finger. Kalis Asta, the nephew of the Aska Empire's emperor, and also the one who sacrificed the most after defeating the Berserk dragon. What is wrong with this kid? All the people he hates are main characters. Could it be that he already figured out who his love rivals for the female lead are? In the end, the female lead gets together with her childhood friend, and all those other guys get dumped. Seeing Lilia stay quiet the whole time, Romeo turned to her and asked, what's up? You hate them too, right? I'm your friend, so you have to hate who I hate. Don't you use your brain to think? Hearing those harsh and absurd words, Lilia felt extremely annoyed. Who wants to be friends with you? Still, thank you for saving me from drowning, but I have no intention of being your friend. She put on a fake smile and replied, I think they're fine. Hearing her say that, Romeo sulked and turned his face away, putting some distance between them. You're so boring. Lilia, however, paid little attention to his reaction. I'm actually thrilled. My goal is to live a peaceful life in this temple, and return to the Empire safely. I don't want to get involved with the main characters. What if I get tangled up with them and die? I'm fine just being a minor side character. Surviving comes first. For that purpose, I absolutely must not get involved with them. However, I am. After breakfast, everyone started to move. Passing by a corner of the Holy Temple, quite a few people were standing there, and Lilia's face suddenly turned pale. In the corner, Oscar looked like he was being bullied. His eyes were wide and tears were streaming down his face. This time, I've really made up my mind. No. Seeing Oscar sitting there, people started to gossip. What's wrong? Why is he like that? Is his name Oscar? Faced with their chatter, he trembled and cried. Then, Oscar cried out in anguish, covering his face with his hands. Suddenly a mysterious voice echoed, What are you doing? Your mother died, and yet you turned away. Oscar, use those cursed eyes of yours and see clearly. Do you know why your eyes are red? It's because of the blood from the person who died right in front of you, splashing on your face and slowly staining them red. Otherwise, how could your eyes be the only ugly ones in this royal family? You're a monster, a monster! Suddenly, a voice rang out, snapping Oscar back to his senses. Oscar. He remembered panicking and calling for his mother then. Oscar's mother lay in his arms, trembling. Oscar, it hurts so much. She was covered in countless wounds. His mother's hand reached out shakily. Oscar, please save me, Oscar. Just then, he was snapped back to reality by a hard shove. Lilia was shouting at him. Wake up, Oscar Herbert, what you're seeing isn't real. Don't listen to what they're saying. With a steady gaze, Lilia held Oscar's face tightly in her hands. Look into my eyes, calm down, it's very safe here, you are safe and sound. Oscar, deeply moved, looked at her in silence. Just then, a frantic thesis ran over. What's going on? Crown Prince Oscar? She looked at his expression and sighed. It seems he's doing better. I've finally gone and caused a scene. At this, Lilia felt a bit helpless, at a loss for words. Oscar's biological father, Emperor Harabox, had killed 10 people and even Oscar's own mother, right in front of him. He scolded Oscar. The one with red eyes is a monster. That emperor's voice haunted Oscar for his entire life. But in the original story, all it took was one sentence from the female lead. At that time, Juliana had remarked, "Your eyes are so beautiful." Just because of that one sentence, Oscar's unhappy childhood was saved. She suddenly recalled reading the novel. It was true. When reading the novel, she didn't feel anything. But now that she was actually facing Oscar, she realized how small, frail, and vulnerable he was. No one could have guessed that Oscar was so fragile as a child. Lilia often found herself panicking, shouting, "What are you all doing? Hurry up and call a medic." There was really no other way but to pretend that she hadn't seen anything. Now that she was alone, she sighed, thinking that she wanted nothing to do with them. Just then, Romeo's voice rang out and startled Lilia. "You really are a heretic, aren't you?" She was completely surprised by his appearance. "Romeo? What? You just stood there watching and didn't help?" Hearing this, Romeo asked in confusion. "Help? You falling into the lake and his condition are two completely different things." Lilia was extremely irritated by his answer, and Romeo looked dumbfounded as she coldly walked away. Then, as she walked away, Lilia said in annoyance, "What now? Why are you following me?" He couldn't help but ask curiously, "What was that just now? What kind of spell did you use?" She calmly explained, "It's just a method to help someone calm down. He was simply having an episode." Before Lilia could finish, he cut her off. "Isn't he possessed?" In this world, that's how ordinary people perceive things. When they see someone suffering from something invisible, they immediately assume it's demonic possession. That's why no one is willing to help Oscar. Once or twice would have been manageable. But if it keeps happening over the 3 years he's living here, the temple will definitely suspect Oscar of being possessed by a demon. And this is precisely Emperor Hellsberg's plan, to destroy Oscar's reputation in order to make another prince the heir. After a moment's thought, she explained, "There are no demons. He's just suffering from mental trauma and having hallucinations, seeing things that aren't there. Don't you ever daydream? It's something similar to that." Romeo was still confused. Who daydreams with their eyes open? Lilia calmly confirmed, "They do." He didn't believe her words. "You're speaking nonsense, and you're so stubborn. There's no proof for anything you're saying. To think the crown prince of the empire could be this dense." Hearing Romeo, Lilia remained silent. Then she couldn't help but comment to herself, "This guy is the worst." In the original story, he at least pretended to be kind and gentle in front of the female lead. People say Oscar is possessed by a demon, and yet you don't understand how he feels? You and Oscar are both dreaming with your eyes open. Suddenly, his words took her by surprise. "Keep talking." Lilia couldn't believe it, blurting out, "What?" Romeo calmly replied, "About the dreaming with your eyes open thing." His hand was clenched into a fist as Romeo decisively continued, "Explain it to me. Tell me more." Surprised by his reaction, Lilia studied Romeo's expression. Perhaps he really wanted to know, since he was still just a child, so she began to explain earnestly. "The human spirit is very fragile. In other words, the human brain is very delicate. What's inside here is not only fragile but also stubborn and awful. Just seeing a frightening image can be forever etched in your mind, and when the body becomes tired and weak, that memory will resurface." After listening for a moment, he blurted out, "So what happens if that keeps repeating?" Lilia explained earnestly, "It would surely be very painful, wouldn't it? Traumatic images will appear in the mind for a lifetime, to the point that one starts to believe they actually witnessed them firsthand. Some people live their whole lives in such agony that, in the end, they can't bear it and choose death." Romeo's face darkened as he said that suicide is a mortal sin, an act of offering one's soul to a demon, a betrayal of the crew's faith. She listened and then confirmed, Yes, it is a sin, that's not wrong, but some people are forced to do it, and that doesn't mean they were possessed by a demon. It's not because of demons, but because they are in so much pain and despair, tormented to their absolute limit. They can't think straight. They think that if they just die, everything will end. Actually, I know the reason. Why Romeo is so concerned with demons? Because when he was young, Romeo witnessed his own mother commit suicide. Romeo's mother was actually in love with another man, but her parents forbade their relationship because they wanted to seize power. They married her off to the emperor of the Rosemary Empire, and luckily, the emperor loved her very much and always treated her well. The emperor never blamed her for anything, always hoping that one day she would open her heart, but she could never forget the man she loved. The relationship between the emperor and empress grew cold. Worried, the empress's parents threatened their daughter that if she wanted to save the man she loved, she had to give birth to the crown prince. And so Romeo was born, and the empress's position became more secure. But her parents used that weakness to threaten her whenever they wanted something. They would threaten the other man's life, but one day, the man the empress deeply loved chose to take his own life. He couldn't bear causing the woman he loved so much pain. The empress was bedridden for the rest of her life out of shame, her condition worsening day by day, suffering from hallucinations and sleepwalking. Rumors spread like wildfire that the empress was possessed by a demon, and in the end, the empress decided to follow him. Her end was the same as the man she loved, and unexpectedly, Romeo witnessed the entire thing. People began to gossip that the empress died because she was possessed by a demon, and Crown Prince Romeo, he would eventually face a similar situation. Romeo was very sad when he heard that news. Even with a gentle stepmother and a doting father, and although Romeo didn't suffer from the same hallucinations and disturbing noises as Oscar, I knew that deep down, he also carried immense scars. His fear of demons deepened. Back in the present, Lilia stayed quiet after the explanation, since this was something Romeo had confessed to the original female lead himself, in the original novel, so I couldn't let on that I already knew about it. Her eyes were currently filled with sadness. One day, the wounds in his heart will heal. At this, the corners of Lilia's mouth lifted slightly, and after a moment she spoke, "There are no such things as demons in this world. At least that's what I believe. There are only people who have hurt you. This world doesn't have demons, so don't worry." He was stunned by Lilia's words, and Romeo's lips suddenly began to tremble violently. His face flushed red as well. Romeo stated firmly, "You're clearly a heretic." Hearing that, she let out a little, "Huh?" Then he continued, "No one says things like that. If you told that to the priests and nobles, they would surely brand you a heretic, wouldn't they?" She cried out in surprise, "What?" All of a sudden, Lilia frantically realized something. "Wait, hold on. If word gets out that the Crown Prince of Olaria is a heretic, the Emperor might just snap my neck." But Romeo spoke with perfect composure. "Surely you know the consequences of saying such things to others?" She was stunned. "What? Is he threatening me?" Then he confirmed it bluntly. "Yes, I am." Lilia suddenly lunged forward and grabbed Romeo by the collar. Then she threatened, "If you tell anyone what I said, I will kill you, you hear me?" He was momentarily stunned by Lilia's threat. She was very pleased to see that. Good. This brat got scared. No matter how arrogant he acts, he's still just a 10-year-old kid. But I can't let my guard down completely. I have to use this chance to establish our hierarchy. I read a puppy training book once. Should I make him call me Big Sis? No, that's not right. Big Bro? But Romeo is 3 years older than me. Lilia froze as she had a sudden realization. The tyrant dragon slaying squad. After that, she let go of Romeo's collar. "Also, from now on, you have to call me Captain." He was dumbfounded. "What? You don't want to? I am the one who's got a hold of your weakness," she said very calmly. "So, you want to defy me?" Romeo's face went pale at her words, and was speechless. Finally, he let out an exasperated sigh. With a look of utter disgust, Romeo said, "I really can't deal with this anymore. Fine, I won't tell anyone else. But if you want to talk to me about that stuff again." Before he could finish, she cut in. "You mean about how Oscar wasn't really possessed by a demon? Fine, I'll tell you as much as you want." Romeo's face turned beet red as Lilia exposed his true feelings. "Thank you, Captain." She looked up at him with a smile. "Oh ho, I didn't want to get involved with any of them in the first place, but I don't know how. I've gone and made one of the future Dragon Slayers my underling, and he's the first one too. It'll probably be fine." At the same time, Texas's voice echoed from inside the room. "Your Highness, please tell the truth. Is it true that Crown Prince Leo of Araria hit you?" Oscar was seen on the bed stammering, No, it's not wrong, but. She got scared when she saw it. "Oh my God, how could this be?" He tried to explain, No, it's not like that." No, it's not like that, child, you're safe now." "Now," Oscar blankly blurted out, he just wanted to help me." On Monday, sunlight shone into Lilia's house, where she was sitting on a chair enjoying tea, lost in thought. "If I had known, I wouldn't have taken Romeo on as my subordinate. It hasn't even been one day and he's already at my house just chilling. Now, Romeo was reading a book and commenting on it. This is really interesting. Captain, you want to see? Lilia couldn't help but remark. You're way too laid back, so this world has comics too. Then she realized someone was coming. He noticed it too, huh? The living room suddenly became silent, and Lilia stared blankly at Romeo. He looked confused too, glancing over at her. Romeo then unhappily closed his book, walked to the door and asked, I was in the middle of a good part. Who the hell is it? Who? Seeing Romeo's posture, she commented, he actually looks like a proper subordinate for once. Meanwhile, he opened the door and grumbled, I don't even need to look. It's definitely a priest, but it's not time for prayers yet. Before he could even finish his sentence, Romeo went quiet upon seeing who it was, and he suddenly felt confused. Why are you here? Lilia was curious when she heard that, until she looked out the door, and was startled too. Because the visitor was none other than Oscar Herbert. Romeo asked, none too pleased, runt. I asked why you are here? What kind of royalty are you, cat got your tongue? Lilia thought helplessly. You're royalty too, you know. Weren't you raised with an education from kind parents? Where did you learn to talk like that? Won't Oscar be scared? But he kept an indifferent and nonchalant attitude. Seeing that, she couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Not scared in the slightest, as expected of the future emperor. Then, Lilia spoke up. Hey Romeo, since he's already here, don't you go scaring him. He replied not too happily, all right, Captain. She was somewhat surprised by Romeo's reaction, after which tea and sweets were brought out. She suddenly felt curious. So, what did you come here for? Now, Oscar said awkwardly. Well, yesterday, thank you for helping me. I came here to thank you, Lilia said graciously. It was nothing. It really wasn't a big deal. To be honest, I wanted to pretend I didn't see you, and only decided to help after thinking about it for half the day. It's a little embarrassing to hear him say thank you. Then she asked with concern, Han, Oscar, are you hungry? Do you want some snacks? He lifted his head and stammered, thank you. Lilia stared at Oscar, thinking to herself, I feel so bad for him, just eat something. Even though Romeo was the one who brought the food, he stammered for a while before managing a complete sentence. TDH, thank you for your hospitality. Romeo, who was nearby, listened to the two of them in silence. Then he suddenly stood up and said, Hey, are you not only crazy, but does it also take you an entire year to talk? She was unhappy with Romeo's attitude and chided him. Hey! But Oscar, instead of getting angry from the taunt, calmly replied. Sometimes when he's nervous, or when he's scared, he gets cut off before he can even finish speaking. You seem to be like this every single day, stuttering, huh? Lilia, completely provoked, shouted loudly, Hey Romeo, you're taking this too far. Friends shouldn't make fun of each other. Romeo retorted defiantly, Who's friends with him, huh? Captain, would you really be friends with this stutterer? Didn't I already tell you that I hate this kid? She couldn't take it anymore and slammed her hand on the table. Romeo was momentarily stunned by Lilia's outburst. Not wanting to argue with them anymore, Romeo left with a cold huff. Seeing this, she called out, Hey Romeo, but her only answer was the heavy slam of the door. That childish brat. No wait, he's really only 10 years old, just a kid. She covered her face with her hands, feeling helpless. After calming down, Lilia sat down and sincerely said to Oscar, I'm sorry for what Romeo did. I apologize. Please don't mind him. He's not really a good person, but he's not inherently bad. Oscar didn't seem to pay it much mind. It's okay. What he said was right anyway. She didn't expect him to have such a reaction. What? Oscar then looked out the window and confided, I don't have any friends, for someone like me, who hesitates and stutters. No one would ever like me. He's just a kid. How can he think that? It was heartbreaking to see him accept it so matter-of-factly. She suddenly felt sorry for him for being so mature beyond his years. After thinking for a moment, Lilia spoke up. Why wouldn't you have any friends? You can just be friends with me, can't you? How could I help you if I hated you, so don't think that way. Oscar was stunned by her words of encouragement. You, even knowing that I stutter, you'd still choose that? Lilia then affirmed with certainty, Of course. He was in disbelief, sitting there completely still. Oscar replied a bit shyly, Thank you, but how do you know my name? She suddenly recalled the moments she had spoken his name. Oscar Herbert, what you're seeing is all fake. Don't listen to him, Oscar Herbert. Lilia became flustered. Are you the Crown Prince of Herbert? Oscar was still confused. I only met you for the first time yesterday. She tried to explain it away. It's nothing. I've always been a very perceptive person. But then Lilia sighed as she realized that her attempt to seem all-knowing was completely useless. He just grew more curious. But why does he call you Captain? Hearing this question, she didn't know how to respond. Then Lilia remembered her own threat. If you dare tell anyone, I'll kill you. You will call me Captain. With no other choice, she made up an excuse. Because I'm handsome? He saw me calming you down, and was filled with respect. Oscar looked at Lilia with admiration. Is that right? In that case, can I call you Captain too? She was caught off guard by his request. What? Oscar, you're going to call me? Then Oscar expressed his desire. I want to call you Captain too. Lilia suddenly felt anxious, blurting out, well. She suddenly remembered the scene where Oscar avenged his mother. He overcame his trauma, killed his father, and became the Blood Emperor. Father, from now on, if anyone dares to walk all over me, I'll kill them all. And Father, you're the one who started this. Unconsciously, her hands tightened around herself. Oscar's voice trembled a little, and seeing her hesitation, he started to speculate. Captain, I can't? Is it because of how I was yesterday? Lilia hurriedly denied it. What? No, that's not it. After hearing her, Oscar continued, no, it's not that. Could it be because I stutter? But she denied it again. That's not it. I'm just scared that if you call me Captain, you'll kill me later. My goal is to survive. Meanwhile, he couldn't hold back his tears, and Lilia grew even more frantic at the sight. She suddenly gritted her teeth, letting out a sound, and finally Lilia shot up and said, fine, you can do it. What's the problem? Go ahead, I give you permission, all right? Oscar was stunned that she agreed. Really? As Lilia confirmed it. I'm telling the truth. Forget it, call me whatever you want. Suddenly, his words caught her by surprise. I thought you hated me. This is great. Lilia's face instantly flushed red when she heard Oscar's confession. Just then, he noticed her reaction. Then, Oscar asked hesitantly, don't you hate it? Lilia immediately held up her hands to deny it. No, how could that be? I'm happy. He felt more at ease seeing that. That's great. She quickly turned away to avoid Oscar's gaze, while Lilia told herself, right, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. To be honest, I'm afraid of being discovered as a girl. But looking at Romeo and Oscar, there are plenty of pretty boys around here. I can rest easy now. Especially Oscar. Is he an elf? He spoke up a bit shyly. Please take good care of me from now on, Captain. They'll both be fine, it's nothing. Deep in a forest full of wolves, a hidden figure asked curiously, can we really kill him? Theseus was then heard softly confirming, I understand. I will act according to your majesty's will. The next morning, as Romeo was asking Han with concern, Captain, did you sleep well? Let's go get breakfast. Why are you going by yourself? You should have called me to come with you. Just then, Oscar ran up and said, Captain, did you sleep well? Can I sit next to you? I want to eat with you too. Seeing this, he got angry. Who gave you permission to join? You've been clinging to the captain non-stop lately, and I'm sick of it. Then Oscar retorted, Romeo, I wasn't asking you. Romeo was shocked that Oscar dared to talk back. What did you just say? As for Lilia, she was helpless watching this scene unfold. But while he acted nonchalant, she realized he was standing out way too much. Why? Why have things become like this? What in the world is the problem? But then again, I can't blame anyone else. Seeing Lilia's silence, he asked, Captain, what are you thinking about? Why aren't you answering? He suddenly grew curious. Captain, is something wrong? She was silent for a moment, then replied, It's nothing. I'm just a bit hungry. Romeo suddenly got excited. Captain, I've discovered you really like to eat. Oh right, have you heard about the night activity? Lilia was very surprised by this information. At night? He confirmed. They said we're supposed to gather outside. What in the world do they want us to do? To drive away the fear of ghosts? A Soma must not fear the dark in the crew's sanctuary. There's a tradition that allows new acolytes to climb the mountain at night. Climbing together can promote a spirit of cooperation and dispel the fear of demons. Although it's a small mountain, for children, it's a very long distance. The priests take the children to the wooden cabin on the mountainside. The children are to return after reaching the destination and lighting the demon-purifying candle. That evening, as the priest instructed, they began climbing in pairs to battle the fear in the darkness with their partner and defeat the inner demon that threatens to consume them. Everyone, don't worry. The priests climb this mountain every day. There are only small animals here like rabbits and squirrels. At that moment, a female student said with a shiver, I'm so scared, while a male student felt excited. This feels so exciting, being able to defeat our inner demons. Romeo suddenly asked the captain curiously, Who are you paired with? Lilia quickly replied, Of course I'm going alone. He couldn't believe it. What? She calmly directed, Romeo, you're with Oscar. Romeo was completely baffled. Why? Lilia asked bluntly, What? Are you scared? He was a little flustered. Well, just then Oscar spoke up. All right, we'll do as the captain says. Romeo immediately snapped. Hey! He paid no mind to his reaction and asked Romeo, Are you scared because you can't be with the captain? Romeo quickly retorted, I'm not scared. She confirmed the matter. Then it settled. He was still unhappy, grumbling to himself. Lilia calmly pointed out, This is a chance for you two to get closer. Don't fight. Now Romeo was starting to get scared. Are there really no monsters? She answered bluntly. I don't think so. Don't be scared, Romeo. Just tell yourself it's better if there are no demons. Romeo's face went pale. What are you talking about? And Oscar, beside him, suddenly said, I also think there are no demons. Seeing this, she praised him. As expected, Oscar thinks so too. Ah, then he confidently replied, I'm not scared of demons at all. Meanwhile, the look on his face was absolutely terrible. Lilia looked at Romeo's assessing face. He must be thinking, even this bookworm isn't scared, so there's no way I can back down. Romeo, your thoughts are written all over your face, but it's normal for Oscar not to be scared. His father is even more terrifying than this. The demons in the dark are scarier. It's the same for me. Darkness has always been by my side, and back then, what I feared most was being forgotten by everyone, dying alone from hunger. She was lost in thought, then turned aside. He still acted as indifferent as ever. When he questioned me, I knew I shouldn't have gotten involved with them. I can't lead the children into this situation. As a character in a novel, if I want to save my own life, I can't keep getting entangled with them. But I can't just stand by and watch tonight's tragedy unfold. The mountain isn't safe tonight, not because of demons, but because someone has deliberately released a fierce beast on the mountain. Lilia's hand held a beautiful bracelet. Even if I were to say all this, not only would no one believe me, but I might also be thrown in jail by the conspirators. I have to find a way to stop this now. A voice echoed from deep in the forest. Why is this so strange? We should have reached the cabin by now. Forget the cabin. We can't even see anyone else. The girl, Kalis, was shocked. What? Are you saying we're lost? But there's only one path, Griffith replied anxiously. That's what I meant when I said it was weird. It's because you're just brainlessly pushing forward. So what? He yelled, provoked. What? You bastard? Who are you calling brainless? Just then, Kalis stumbled forward and let out a panicked cry, landing on top of a large tree root. Kalis's foot was injured, bruised and swollen. He gasped in panic as the lamp shattered, and his expression instantly turned ugly. Seeing this, Griffith became worried. It's getting dark, and even the oil lamp is broken. What are we supposed to do now? He scrambled to his feet and said frantically, This is all your fault. Griffith was exasperated at being blamed by Kalis. What are you talking about? How is this my fault? He continued to lash out. If you hadn't been spouting nonsense at me, I wouldn't have fallen, Griffith said, utterly exasperated. You're great at shifting the blame, you really are an idiot. But Griffith couldn't take it anymore and lunged at Kalis, starting a fight. You damn bastard, he yelled from the sudden attack. What the hell are you doing? The two of them fought for a long time before finally stopping. Kalis touched his wound and then sneered, You idiot, this is such a waste of time. He stood there frozen, fists clenched, while Kalis went to pick up the broken lamp. Fine, get the hell out of here. Get lost, you coward. Lilia, observing the whole thing, remarked, So that's how they fought. That's why Kalis ended up alone. The novel said that he deeply regretted it. We fought over something so stupid. We were both just immature kids back then, but I was the truly childish one. If only I had been a little more understanding. If I hadn't left you all alone, it wouldn't have ended up this way. A moment later, Griffith, now by himself, cursed quietly. Damn it. The pain made him cry out, and the agony forced Griffith to curse again. Damn it. His silhouette looked incredibly lonely. Suddenly, a sound from deep in the woods caught Griffith's attention. Hearing that, he chuckled. What? You're back already? You were too scared to go down the mountain alone, weren't you? Then Griffith froze when he saw a deathly pale hand rise up, and the color instantly drained from his face. Just then, a mischievous Lilia spoke up. Nope, I'm not Kalis. Griffith became even more terrified, completely speechless. She, on the other hand, glanced around and said, Oh my, it's just one thing after another. At that moment, her clothes got snagged on a branch. Oh, it's free, wonderful. Just then, Lilia noticed a dark figure charging at her. He must have lunged out of nowhere, yelling, Get away, get away! Be gone, you demon! Griffith's foot kicked her hard in the waist, his face a mask of fury. Lilia cried out in pain from the kick, her voice laced with disbelief. So you're Prince Leo, that idiot who plays at being the captain? Lilia smirked sarcastically. Good thing you realized I'm not some monster. I'm Kalis Asta. He was trembling but forced a laugh. I was curious who you were, but I didn't think you'd be even weaker than me. She immediately shot back. You're covered in a cold sweat. You have no right to talk. He couldn't help but ask, But why are you here? Lilia hesitated before answering. Well, it's complicated. Let's just head down first. We need to get off this mountain. Right then, Lilia froze, baffled by his reaction. He completely ignored her plea and casually stretched out on the ground, which made Lilia panic. Hey! He slowly opened his mouth to speak. Kalis casually ordered, Carry me down the mountain. With my leg like this, we'll just have to stay here until morning. She was suddenly at a loss for words. You! Lilia angrily gritted her teeth, cursing him under her breath. This clueless idiot still has the nerve to look so unconcerned. Doesn't he even realize the only reason I'm in this mess is because of him? You're going to lose an arm on this mountain tonight. Since it's come to this, I'll just have to tell him the truth, even though he won't believe me. She called out, "Hey, you don't have to believe me, but a vicious beast is going to appear on this mountain tonight." Kalis frowned. What? What kind of nonsense are you talking about? Why would I believe that? Can you just stop spouting nonsense? Lilia felt a wave of disappointment, though she had expected this. It was just as she'd predicted. I didn't really expect him to believe me anyway. She fell silent, trying to figure out what to do, then called his name again. "Kalis, do you trust your uncle?" He suddenly shot up and lunged towards her. Kalis grabbed Lilia by the shoulders with both hands, and while she was still in shock, he shouted, "I'm asking you, damn it! Who sent you here? Answer me!" Lilia struggled to push him away, silently wondering what was suddenly wrong with him. She raised her hand to show him the symbol as proof. "I am the Crown Prince of Olaria, so naturally, the Emperor of Olaria sent me." Kalis stared at the symbol on her hand, but still looked suspicious. He pressed, "It wasn't my uncle who sent you?" She denied it. "How could your uncle possibly send me? You're an idiot. Forget it. Now let go." She breathed a quiet sigh of relief. He asked curiously, "But how do you know about him then?" Lilia quickly came up with a response. "I'm just very observant." She thought to herself that this excuse would have to do for now. The Aska Empire, a kingdom of deserts and sorcery, was left completely desolate due to the Emperor's tyranny, with both adults and children suffering from cruel labor. This was all because of the Emperor of Aska, who, despite his cruelty, was an important uncle to Kalis. To the cruel Emperor of Aska, Kalis was a thorn in his side. The Emperor feared that one day, Kalis would threaten his throne. Lilia avoided his gaze and continued, "Your uncle wants to kill you." Kalis then pieced it together. "So my uncle sent a beast to this mountain to kill me?" She replied instantly. "That's right," he conceded. "It's unbelievable, but what you're saying is true." A heavy silence quickly fell between them. As Kalis processed this, he laughed self-deprecatingly. "Then I guess I'll just die." Her eyes widened in shock. "What?" Kalis continued. "I know it too. My uncle, His Majesty, wants me dead. So, I might as well just die according to his wishes." Lilia froze for a moment. Kalis shouted, trying to chase her away. "Get out of here. Didn't you say a beast was coming?" "You damn it, just get lost! This has nothing to do with you anyway," she retorted in her head. "What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? I saw you get hurt. How could I just abandon you and leave? It looks like I'm meddling in Kalis's business now. There's no guarantee it'll follow the original story. And if that happens, I won't just lose an arm. I could actually die." She sighed to herself. "Oh my god, he's actually scared to death." Kalis tried to sound tough and yelled, "Damn it, get out of here before I kill you. Get lost. Just get lost." Lilia slowly replied, "Even if you didn't say that, I had to go anyway." He grit his teeth in acceptance, "But I'm not leaving alone. Kalis, this might hurt, so just bear with it for a moment." He turned his head back, his face pale with shock. "What? Wait, what are you trying to do right now?" The darkness of night had completely covered the dense forest. Lilia considered, "If this fails, I'll just have to hit him a few more times. I'm lucky to have gotten this body. I didn't expect it to be stronger and tougher than I thought, but the problem is I don't know the way. I can only rely on the moonlight. Even though I'm heading downhill, it doesn't feel like I'm moving forward. Don't tell me they used magic or a spell to make the path transformable. We have to find a way." She suddenly froze, stopping in her tracks. Sensing a noise, Lilia quickly turned her head toward the sound and watched cautiously. She was covered in a cold sweat, tense and afraid. The wolf was finally going to appear. The hem of a robe swayed, visible behind the bushes in front of her. A voice spoke up. "Father asks what you are doing here." "You are." Lilia recognized it immediately. "Griffith? Why are you here?" "I thought he'd left Kalis all alone," she answered awkwardly. "I am the Prince of Olaria." He also recognized her quickly. "I know you. But what are you doing here?" Lilia hesitated. "Well, it's kind of complicated. Sorry, I don't have time to explain right now. You might not believe it, but this mountain is really dangerous right now. A beast is about to appear any second," Griffith calmly continued. "The priests walk this mountain every day, animals like wild beasts." She shouted impatiently, cutting him off. "After you meet the wolf in a bit, I'd like to see if you can still say things like that. Anyway, hurry up, we have to get down the mountain together." He remarked, "This path is tangled like a maze." Lilia said hurriedly, "I know that, but the exit has to be around here somewhere." Then, Griffith stared blankly at her, glanced away with a frustrated sigh, and spoke up. "I've found a way." She was surprised. "What? Really?" Lilia's eyes widened as she paid attention, noticing something. He held out the firefly lantern in his hand. "That's right, fireflies." Although they weren't bright, the fireflies were used instead of a candle. Lilia thought to herself, "But Griffith doesn't need this, right? Even though he hasn't awakened yet, he was born with divine power, so he can see clearly, even in the dark." He left Kalis alone. That's what was written in the original work. After Griffith found the exit, did he come back? And he even went out of his way to make a lantern. He wondered, what's wrong with this kid? She suddenly hesitated, trying to think of an excuse. He got scared and passed out. Actually, I'm the one who knocked him out. That's not like Kalis. Griffith let out a sarcastic little huff. That useless thing. And yet he's so arrogant. I knew this would happen. At that moment, Lilia quietly observed his attitude. Even though his words were a bit harsh, he must have come back because he was worried about Kalis. Maybe in the original story, the two of them actually got lost on the way. Thinking this, she couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. Griffith bluntly demanded, "Don't laugh. You look so uncomfortable." Lilia couldn't stop laughing once she understood. "It seems I've misunderstood you. You're actually a good person, huh?" He tilted his head, confused. "Huh?" She skillfully changed the subject. "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and lead the way," he said helplessly. "All right, just follow my light." A sudden premonition sent shivers down Griffith's spine. Lilia called out softly, "Griffith?" She asked curiously, "What's wrong?" Nearby, a wolf was lurking in the bushes. Lilia instinctively turned to look, and the wolf immediately lunged, swiping at her. Griffith quickly threw a stick to drive it away. Stumbling slightly, Lilia felt the sharp scratch across her chest in terror, as fresh blood dripped onto the cold ground. She struggled to regain her balance, groaning softly in pain, as a figure rushed to stand in front of her. Griffith held a branch, fending off the vicious wolves that had surrounded them. "Wolves?" Griffith couldn't hide his shock. "I can't believe they're actually here. Why are there wolves in this place?" "All right," Lilia called out. "Griffith, blow the whistle around my neck. It's a divine priest's whistle. Hurry." He silently wondered, isn't she scared at all? She thought to herself, this is bad. Her legs were trembling uncontrollably. "I'm so scared I can't even move." Even with the whistle, the divine priests can't get here in time. Griffith quickly blew the whistle as she asked. The assassin faltered in surprise, making them think the divine priests might be coming. That should be enough. If I'm lucky, the assassin will get scared and retreat with the wolves. Griffith suddenly stopped whistling, his eyes widening as he stared forward. A wolf lunged to attack, and he reacted quickly to block it. Another wolf charged in, baring its fangs and biting his shoulder hard enough to draw blood. Lilia screamed in worry. "Griffith!" An instantaneous flash of purple light appeared, and Griffith was suddenly enveloped in a powerful magic circle. Even he was surprised by the sight, which made her suspicious. Is this divine power? Griffith isn't supposed to awaken his divine power yet. Did facing a life or death situation trigger an early awakening? She asked worriedly. "Han Griffith, are you okay?" Callus's voice suddenly cut in. "What's all this noise? Such an eyesore." Griffith froze on the spot. What in the world is happening?" Lilia turned to reassure Griffith. "Wait, calm down." Kalis ruthlessly shoved her aside. "Let go of me." She frantically turned back to look at Griffith, who was staggering and losing his balance. Kalis secretly reached into his shirt for something, gritting his teeth with determination. A wolf lunged and pinned him down. Lilia was frozen in place for a moment, horrified by the scene unfolding before her eyes. "Griffith, don't!" In the original novel, Kalis loses an arm in this wolf attack, but Kalis swung his greatsword with his other hand. An image of the adult Kalis flashed through her mind. She became the most dynamic warrior of the frenzied dragon subjugation team, but her sacrifice was inevitable. "So, at the very least, let me save the arm he's meant to lose tonight. That's all I want. I should have been more careful. Because of me, things have gotten worse." A sharp gasp snapped Lilia out of her thoughts, snapping out of her daze. Kalis was struggling to push the wolf's corpse off of him. Damn it, what the hell is going on? He decisively pulled his blade from the wolf's body, leaving Lilia completely stunned. A short sword, so he actually brought one. Kalis sighed wearily. "Damn it, it was a real wolf. You should have told me it was a real wolf, you bastard," Lilia said helplessly. "You idiot, I told you it was real," he stubbornly retorted. "Who would have believed you?" She yelled angrily. "If you're going to blame anyone, blame yourself for not believing me." Griffith uncomfortably stepped in to stop them. "This isn't the time to argue. The wolves are still surrounding us with killing intent." The assassin in the tree suddenly cast some magic. A fog suddenly rolled in, and he gave the order, "Cut." Griffith was startled to realize the wolf pack was slowly turning into sand and blowing away. Even the wolf that had been stabbed was disintegrating, its entire body quickly turning into fine sand. He was shocked and confused. The wolves turned into sand? What just happened? They're gone. Then Lilia began to explain. "The assassin realized he couldn't kill us, so he got rid of the evidence." Griffith asked doubtfully, "Why do you make it sound like someone was controlling the wolves? Are you saying you used that whistle to scare him away?" He glanced again at the whistle hanging from her neck. "Which one of us was the assassin trying to kill?" Kalis answered instantly, "Me. This is an Aska item." He scooped up a handful of sand, examining it. "The sand curse." Kalis angrily clenched his hand into a fist. It's really true. My uncle wants me dead." Tears of resentment streamed down his face. He really wants to kill me? Lilia stood by silently, unsure how to comfort him, and softly called his name, Callus. But she quickly shut her mouth, not daring to continue. She thought to herself, his arm is also fine, and he's still alive. How could I say that? Lilia deftly changed the subject, urging, hurry, it's not safe here. Let's hurry down the mountain. Callus looked at her with teary eyes as Griffith stepped forward and offered, let me carry him, she protested. No, you can't, your arm is hurt. Get on, I don't have the strength to knock you out again. Feeling wronged, Callus blushed and glared at her, then punched himself in the head. Damn it, just let her carry you. Griffith ignored them and calmly tended to his wound. Lilia announced, all right, let's go. Callus, lying on her back, asked, but why does my right ankle hurt so much? I was hurt on my left side. She confessed. Sorry, when I knocked you out, I accidentally stepped on your right foot. I thought it was something soft. He shouted angrily. You! She whined. I already apologized. I can't breathe. Stop moving. Griffith suddenly stopped for a moment, so Lilia and Callus also stopped and looked back. We almost died just now, and you two can still laugh. How amusing. Callus blushed, embarrassed. What? You were clearly laughing too. But Griffith immediately denied it. I wasn't laughing. What are you talking about? Callus shouted in anger. What did you just say? Lilia reminded him. Don't move. The priests were gathered together, their voices echoing as they talked amongst themselves. They're not back yet? Let's go find them now. A loud voice shouted, something terrible has happened. The princes, said His Highness, went up the mountain alone. Then another argument broke out. What? Weren't they supposed to go in groups of 3? It looks like something happened to them. Oscar suddenly noticed something. Figures were slowly approaching from a distance. He shouted, Captain! Romeo anxiously added. Where did you go? Lilia was panting, exhausted from the long journey. She struggled to look up ahead, when suddenly, her whole body froze against her will. Lilia's vision began to blur. A panicked voice rushed to call out, Captain! And someone's crying could be heard. Lilia slowly opened her eyes and asked, Who's crying? The one crying was Oscar. He had realized Lilia was awake. Oscar, with tears streaming down his face, cried out, Captain, you're awake! She looked at him with wide eyes. Oscar, why are you crying? Romeo, standing by the hospital bed, replied irritably, Isn't it all because you got hurt, Captain? Lilia softly called. Romeo, where is this? Romeo answered, The temple's infirmary. It's a good thing you're awake. Let me go get the priestess who's looking after you. Lilia said softly, So it's an infirmary? Oscar, who stayed behind, then said, You passed out right after that. At the mention of that, she immediately sat up and asked worriedly, What about the other two? He replied, After receiving treatment, they went to see their superior officer. The priestess who came with Romeo approached to ask about the crown prince's condition. Your Highness Leo, you're awake. Are you feeling any discomfort or pain? Lilia thought to herself. She seems so gentle. Then she touched her stomach and replied, I don't feel any discomfort right now. Suddenly, something felt wrong. How could it be fine? The wound on my stomach has healed, and my clothes are fine too. At this thought, her hands and feet began to tremble uncontrollably. Lilia thought anxiously, Oh my God, does this mean they found out I'm a girl? If they find out about this, the Emperor will definitely kill me. Oscar called out to her worriedly, Captain! The priestess gently whispered into Lilia's ear, Your Highness, it's all right. I was the one who changed your clothes. No one else saw anything. Please, calm down. Of course, I won't tell anyone either. Still trembling, she looked at the priestess. Romeo asked worriedly, Captain, are you okay? Oscar stammered. Captain still hasn't recovered. Lilia said loudly, No, I'm fine now. After confirming her condition, the priestess opened the door and left. Suddenly, someone approached and called out to her, You're awake. 2 people entered the room. Griffith spoke up and asked, You look all right, don't you? Lilia exclaimed their names. Griffith, Callus. Seeing them, she silently thanked the heavens. They were safe and sound. That's great. The priests healed Griffith's arm, and both of Callus's arms are fine. This is really great, Griffith said to her. You should go see the high priest as well. We're planning to use this opportunity to protest against them, Lilia asked in confusion. What? You're not going to protest? You are the crown prince of Olaria. So what? He and I are both royalty. Hearing that, she fell silent for a moment. Then Lilia became lost in thought. Something this major has happened. The temple has a responsibility to inform all the nations and investigate carefully. In principle, Callus lost an arm, and the young representatives from the various nations learned this truth. They clamored to report this to their home countries, causing a huge uproar. But the victim himself, Callus's uncle, the Emperor of Aska, wants to settle things quietly. Currently, our 5 empires are joining forces with the temple to nurture my nephew. After he was injured, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. I was upset and enraged, but now is not the right time. Everyone, absolutely do not forget our purpose, to bring the children to visit the sick, not to be the victims. The young emperor said as much, so the other empires couldn't say a thing, and the temple apologized to the nations. They promised to be more careful in the future, and after that, the priests devoted much effort to protecting the children. How must Callus have felt at that time, losing an arm? Callus also knew that his own uncle wanted to kill him, but he didn't tell anyone, nor could he seek help from others, which was understandable. His own uncle wants to kill him, so who could he possibly trust? The others also kept their distance from Callus. As the one who was attacked, Lilia spoke up. "Does anyone besides us know what happened on the mountain?" Griffith replied, "No, not yet." She said, "Seriously, then don't tell anyone else. Can we just pretend this never happened?" Hearing that, Griffith immediately asked, "Are you insane?" "Captain, is your head on straight?" Oscar quickly tried to explain. The captain is a little." Lilia pursed her lips, thinking, even though he doesn't show it, Callus must be heartbroken over this. In the original story, in a situation like this, Callus voluntarily gives up his royal rights to become the king of the mercenaries, but this guy is just a 10-year-old kid right now. She steeled her resolve. "I'm begging you, let's just keep this a secret between us," Griffith asked. "But why on earth?" Caught off guard, Lilia stammered, "Well, the thing is, if my father finds out, it'll become a huge deal. The truth is, my father adores me, so much so that," she imagined her father cuddling her. "Leo, come here and give daddy a kiss." Lilia would then laugh awkwardly and reply, "Oh father, you kiss me every day and even hold me when I sleep." Oscar covered his mouth and gasped, "Oh my God." Romeo looked horrified. "That's insane." Griffith was so disgusted, he blurted out, "I can't stand it." Meanwhile, Callus was trying to suppress a laugh, while Lilia trembled looking at them, thinking, "I feel sick just from saying that." And then she added, "Anyway, what do you think will happen after my father finds out I was injured? He'll definitely cry his heart out and make a huge scene, demanding to go on some crazy rampage, and that would break my heart too. Yes, so I'm begging you." "Oh, that's right, I'll grant each of you one wish," Callus said quietly. "As for me, I don't want to make a big deal out of this." But Romeo still vehemently objected. "I disagree, Captain. Is your brain broken? Can you please use your head for a second? You almost died. Did getting bitten by that wolf make you an idiot? Or were you just always this stupid? You just woke up. Is your brain still not working?" Romeo's question left everyone in shock, and she cut him off. "What? You Romeo, shut your mouth this instant!" Lilia's shouting stopped Romeo in his tracks. Then he yelled, "Fine, I have no right to object. You foolish captain, just do whatever you all want." Then he stormed out. As the door slammed shut, Lilia muttered in a daze, "How dare that kid?" Seeing this, Oscar stepped forward to console her. "Captain, calm down. You know how Romeo is. You have to be the bigger person, Captain." Lilia then sighed and replied, "You're right, Oscar. The more mature one is the greater one. I'm sorry for raising my voice, Oscar." He quickly said, "No, it's all right. It wasn't your fault." Listening to the exchange between her and Oscar left Griffith and Callus utterly astonished. Then Callus asked, "Why did that guy just call you captain? Are you really playing captain at this age?" Lilia answered awkwardly, "It's not a game. They said they wanted to call me that. I know what to do," she silently added in her mind, "even though I was the one who made Romeo call me that." Griffith and Callus fell silent. Then Callus said with a wide grin, "Oh, is that so? So that means," Griffith continued. "So what if we also want to call you captain?" Griffith asked. "Can we call you captain too?" Hearing this, Lilia trembled. "What? No, wait, you guys. You want to call me that too?" Griffith replied. "Of course," Callus said with a smile. "That's right." The two of them shouted in unison. "Please take care of us from now on, Captain," Lilia thought with her jaw dropped. "No way. Why is this happening? This is completely beyond my expectations." A few days have passed since that day. The priests, having been in a tight spot, happily agreed to our request for secrecy, which was like a gift from heaven. The high-ranking priests came to find us themselves, bowed their heads and thanked us, promising that something like this would never happen again. They also promised to find the culprit. But I know that even if they investigate, they won't find anything, because this was something the high-ranking priests and the emperor of the Asuka Empire did together. There's no evidence, so no one will be punished, but we've returned to our peaceful daily lives. Peaceful. As night fell in the bedroom, Romeo boasted to the others, "If anyone dares to take my spot, I will absolutely not forgive you." Oscar, sitting in a corner, spoke up, "Romeo, you're the one who is such a terrible sleeper, always rolling all over the place." Griffith, propping his head up, said, "Romeo, why don't you just get another bed?" Meanwhile, Callus, lying sprawled on the bed, said irritably, "What the heck? You two are so noisy, just go to sleep, you're so annoying." "Hurry up and turn off the light, it's too bright," Romeo shot back. "I'm still reading a book," Oscar said quietly. "I can sleep even with the lights on." Romeo then spoke up, "Callus, I can lend you a book. That's more on your level." This is Lilia's bedroom. The first thing she saw upon entering the room was the sight of 4 beds lined up in a row. Lilia thought with annoyance. Why did these guys move their beds into my room? When Romeo saw her arrive, he invited her. Captain, let's go to sleep together. Before he could finish, Lilia had already walked out and slammed the door. She cursed inwardly. Like hell I'm sleeping with you guys. Why do they have to sleep in my room? Why do they have to sleep in my room? They're all royalty. You guys must have several rooms to yourselves, just like me. So why? I never told them to come into my room? Lilia sat dejectedly with her back against the door, living together with 4 future heroes. Isn't this just asking for trouble? Here we go again. She tried to calm herself down. All right, I still have to be in this temple for another 3 years. There must be a way. Anyway, things will develop according to the script. I won't have to see them again later on. Not long after returning to Olaria, Lilia Olaria will really pass away. Ah, it's early in the morning and some female students are already gossiping excitedly. Ah, look over there. That's the kid the 4 of them call Captain. He's the crown prince of Olaria. At that moment, Lilia was sitting alone eating a cup of ice cream. Everyone was going crazy over his handsome looks. So handsome! The female students were swooning over Lilia's good looks, while in the distance, Juliana was passing through the hallway. When she saw Lilia, she thought, I'm glad I woke up so early today. I wonder what's going on. He's all by himself, but he's usually with 4 other people. Juliana approached her, holding onto the staircase railing. She thought, this is the perfect chance to get close to him. Lilia noticed the person standing in front of her. Ah, Juliana gave a polite curtsy. Hello, you're the crown prince of the Olaria Empire, right? She quickly replied. Huh? The girl excitedly introduced herself. I'm from the Nishia Empire, and my father is Count Childers. Lilia looked at her for a moment, then smiled and said, Is that so? Did you need something from me? Lilia's smile actually made Juliana blush. She said shyly, well, I want to be your friend. Are you always with those guys? Lilia knew right away who she was talking about. Oh, them? Juliana said, Yes, everyone calls you Captain. I think you're so cool, she argued back. Well, it's not really that great. It just kind of ended up that way, she insisted. It really is amazing, hearing such high praise. Lilia couldn't hide her pride and thought, what am I gonna do? It looks like I'm super popular. A beautiful girl likes me. My goal of being invisible is completely shattered. It's all because of that royal gang of 4 leeches. She remembered what happened a few days ago, when the group of 4 barged into her room all at once. Captain, good morning, Lilia snapped angrily. Don't just barge in here whenever you want. Usually, wherever she went, they followed. No matter where I go, they're always by my side. Romeo called out happily, Captain, Captain! Everyone enthusiastically called for Lilia, Captain, Captain, and Oscar and Callus cheerfully followed her. Just thinking about it is exhausting, Lilia thought. I really can't get a moment's peace. I woke up early today just to escape those pests, but the gazes from the other girls are still full of fascination. After those 4 royals became my followers, everyone's curiosity about me skyrocketed. The people from Olaria are all lower-ranking nobles who have never seen the real Crown Prince Leo, so I don't need to worry about being found out as a fake. But the problem is, Leo and I have completely different personalities. The real Leo isn't just arrogant, he's a total lost cause. Still, not having to worry about people comparing us to see who's real means I can be more relaxed in my acting, which is great. 3 years from now, not long after I return to Olaria, Emperor Ledios and Prince Leo will be killed in a rebellion. At that time, Juliana's voice interrupted, Crown Prince Leo. She smiled in response. I'm sorry, you were saying? She said, actually, there's something I wanted to ask you. And then Juliana's whole face turned red. Seeing that, Lilia praised her in a whisper. Her face is turning red. That's so cute. She spoke up. If you want to ask something, just go ahead. Juliana stammered. Summoning all her courage, she asked, Has Lord Griffith mentioned anything about me? Lilia was stunned and blurted out, Huh? Juliana explained shyly. Actually, I'm His Highness Griffith's fiancé, but His Highness Griffith treats me. Now it was Lilia's turn to blush. Oh, I see. So she wanted to ask about Griffith, she thought to herself. Then Lilia answered politely, I don't think I can be of any help. He and I have never talked about that subject, Juliana said quietly. Is that so? She then said, My subordinates and I rarely eat together, when suddenly someone shouted, Captain. It was the group of 4, bursting through the door. She flinched slightly, and then suddenly, he noticed there was another person here. The moment Juliana was spotted, oh dear, she immediately bolted. Well, let's talk next time. Goodbye. Juliana rushed past Romeo, her face beet red. Oscar stammered. Who? Who was that? Romeo said nonchalantly. Our captain's girlfriend. Callus echoed the confusion. Girlfriend? This guy. Lilia thought irritably. I must be seeing things. Oscar said, flustered. Callus, your relationships with women are always so complicated. Captain, she's really pretty. Hearing this, Kalis snapped. What? My relationships with women are perfectly normal, Lilia muttered to herself. Oscar, I really don't appreciate you saying that. Romeo chimed in. Just as Oscar said, the captain is quite popular with the ladies. Kalis, are you dense? Kalis blushed and retorted. What? Are you calling me dense? Romeo changed the subject. Let's see what we're eating today. Romeo, Kalis snapped. Don't you dare ignore me. Oscar turned to Lilia, who was staring blankly. Captain, is it really true? About the girlfriend? She paused, looking at Oscar for a second, before Lilia quickly answered. Oh, heavens no! Of course not. And what if she were my girlfriend? Would that be such a big deal? She's Prince Griffith's fiancée? Oscar cried out in surprise. What? You mean you have a fiancé? Romeo said incredulously. No way! Oscar, next to him, mumbled shyly. I don't have one either. Romeo blurted out in shock. What? Lilia mentally went, ah, and sighed, lost in thought. The one the Emperor hates doesn't have a fiancé. Then Romeo turned to Lilia and asked, so what about you, Captain? She flinched a little at being addressed directly as he asked, you must have a fiancé, right? Lilia jumped, stammering. Huh? She murmured. Oh dear, I don't think the captain has one. Romeo asked excitedly, he has to have one. Right, Captain? Lilia stammered. Ah, well that's And so, she thought, sweating bullets. I don't know. The original story never mentioned a fiancé for Leo. He was just a side character after all. Lilia fell silent for a moment, thinking grimly, but if I get this wrong, things will get complicated. The Emperor really does favor Leo, so it would be perfectly normal for him to have a fiancé, but my situation here definitely isn't that simple. I should minimize Leo's relationships. Lilia sighed softly, finally understanding after mulling it over. I'll just have to do my best with what I know. She began to fabricate a story. Ah, well, you see, my constitution has always been frail, so they were worried I'd be concerned, so they never told me about it. I seem to recall my father mentioning something like that. Ah, but maybe he didn't. Griffith said, that's a possibility. She sighed in relief. Whew, they bought it. However, Kalis asked skeptically, but you said you were frail, yet you carried me all the way down the mountain. You may look sickly, but you're incredibly strong, aren't you? Lilia quickly explained. That was a dangerous situation. I completely forgot how exhausted I was. If the priest hadn't treated me, my arm would have been permanently damaged. Kalis, you should be grateful. Think about how desperate I was to save you, that I could unleash such unbelievable power. Hearing that, his face turned bright red from embarrassment. Romeo seriously turned to Lilia, and then asked the captain, if I were in danger, you would do the same, right? She just went, huh? Romeo snapped. What was that? Are you in pain or something? I was the first person to become your good friend. Have you forgotten? Is there something wrong with your head? Lilia waved her hands dismissively. I know. I remember. When the time comes, I'll definitely protect you. Oscar asked timidly. Captain. So you'll save me too, right? Lilia proudly replied to Oscar. If it were you, I would carry you on my back every day. Because she thought, because you're smaller than me, and you weigh less. Hearing this, Oscar let out a soft laugh. He said, touched, that's wonderful. Lilia couldn't resist patting Oscar's head. You're so cute, just like an elf. Is someone this adorable really older than me? If I had a little brother, is this what it would feel like? Even though our eye colors are different, our hair color is similar. She gently touched a strand of his hair and said, Oscar, come to think of it, we have the same hair color. People might mistake us for siblings. Oscar blushed and said, Siblings? You can treat me as your big brother, you can rely on me, Kalis said exasperatedly. Ha, siblings. Yeah, right. Are you kidding? You two sure know how to say things that'll cause a bloodbath. Romeo put his hands on his hips and said, oh my god. Sometimes I really want to tape the captain's mouth shut. Lilia puffed her cheeks and thought, what? Is it really that bad? Suddenly, she noticed something, speaking of which, that guy's been too quiet, Griffith. Lilia looked at him for a moment, a few thoughts crossing her mind. He has the expression of a lonely child. He follows everyone else, always stays near me, but in reality, he treats me so coldly, it makes you unable to stop yourself from caring about him. Lilia took a deep breath, and then she called out, Griffith, I'm telling you this now, I would do the same if it were you. At least you wouldn't be a crybaby like Kalis, and you wouldn't make me carry you. Having his name dropped, Kalis's embarrassment turned to anger. Who are you calling a crybaby? That's a cheap shot, Lilia retorted. Who else would I be talking about? You, obviously, Kalis exclaimed, exasperated. You're unbelievable. Her words moved Romeo deeply. Lilia said to everyone, I'm not just asking, I want you to be sure of it. Okay. Everyone, let's start eating, Romeo interjected. Hey, wait a minute, Captain. Didn't you already eat before we arrived? She replied excitedly. I can always eat more, he muttered, the personification of gluttony. Callis mused. Are you really that sickly? Lilia snapped in frustration. Geez, you guys are so noisy. I'm leaving. Later that night, in the room the four of them shared, the sound of someone crying echoed. Oscar was gripping the bedsheets tightly, looking to be in extreme pain, when he suddenly jolted awake. Oscar's eyes were glowing, and he sat up, panting heavily as if he had just woken from a nightmare. Then, trembling, Oscar covered his eyes with his hands. A voice echoed in his head. It's okay. You're safe now. You can rely on me. Oscar's eyes snapped open, looking terrifying, before he shut them again and began to cry. Oscar sat huddled on his bed, hugging his knees and pleading silently. Help me, Captain. A kid's voice asked. You said you wanted to go out? Plates of pastries and tea were arranged beautifully on the table, looking delicious. Romeo rested his chin in his hand, leaning back in his chair. That's right. Don't just stay cooped up in your room all day. Go out and have some fun sometimes, Callis said, licking some cake from the corner of his mouth, just as they were wondering what to do. Out in the courtyard, Romeo immediately objected. No, I suggest we go hang out outside the temple. The sacred neutral zone has a commercial district too. Griffith, who was sitting with his legs crossed while holding a book, looked up like an adult and said, It's a bit far from the temple, but there is one. This is a neutral zone, so commerce is quite bustling. Leo timidly asked, Even so, will the priests actually let us go outside? Romeo placed an index finger on his lips and gave a sly smirk. His eyes sparkling, he said, The three of you were attacked by a pack of wolves on the mountain, an incident that's enough to affect the relationship between the empires and the crew's Holy Land, but we kept it quiet, and Griffith immediately understood what Romeo was implying. It means we have some leverage over the temple. Romeo replied instantly. Precisely. He grinned mischievously again. Now's the time to shake things up, and keep the priests on their toes. Let's take a trip outside. They'll have to arrange guards for us anyway. Right? Leo silently thought to herself. Outside? To say I don't want to go would obviously be a lie. I've only ever been to the last tower of the Imperial City and never anywhere else. If I miss this chance, I might never be able to go out again, Romeo announced loudly. All right, everyone, let's go out. Just then, Oscar, who was still sitting in his spot, stammered, I'm going to stay here. Romeo was surprised by Oscar's unexpected decision. What? Why? We should all go out together, right, Leo? Oscar quickly found an excuse. I'm really sleepy. I'll just stay here and sleep. You guys go ahead. Go on. As he walked toward the door, Romeo called after him. Hey, wait! Sweat broke out on Leo's face as her mind raced. Oscar. He's scared of crowded places, not just because of the trauma from his father, but he's also afraid of interacting with other people. Is there a way I can help Oscar? Suddenly, Leo's eyes lit up as an idea struck her. That's it, Romeo grumbled, his face twisted in annoyance. What now? This guy finally gets a chance to go out and have fun. Leo's voice rang out, Let's go! Romeo was stunned for a few seconds. Leo asked again, What? You guys don't want to go? A flustered Romeo. We do, but... He stammered. Leaving Oscar behind while just we go, it feels a bit... Leo's eyes widened as she looked at Romeo, a bit surprised by his attitude toward Oscar. At first, Romeo couldn't even stand Oscar. I guess he's a good guy after all. Leo smiled and said, It's okay, let's go. Hurry and get ready. Romeo took on the task of persuading the priests, but Romeo was still deeply concerned about Oscar. Captain, are we really leaving Oscar behind? A luxurious carriage arrived, and the street scene outside was bustling, much more lively, with dense crowds of people walking about. The four children witnessed this sight, and couldn't help but be surprised, looking all around them. Romeo spoke up. This is nothing compared to the bustling streets of my Roseberry Empire, Callis said with a deadpan expression. There's nothing much to see, it's dead boring. Griffith added, but it's very clean. Leo thought. So these royals, the knight said politely. There are a lot of you princes here. Don't get lost. Leo smiled politely. I'll be careful, thank you. Just as Romeo thought, the priests agreed to let us go out. Our range of activity limited to the bustling street near the temple, and they assigned 5 knights to us. Leo looked left and right as if searching for something. Well then, let me go look. Suddenly, her eyes widened as if she'd found what she was looking for. Seeing this, her 3 friends asked, What is it, Captain? Hey, what are you looking at? They were surprised to see Leo holding a doll. Aren't you one of the father's boys? You still need to hug a doll to sleep? A shop with a wooden cabinet displayed lovely dolls in its compartments. The shop owner smiled kindly. Welcome. Then he was startled to see the children. What? Why are holy knights coming in here? He stood still, observing. Could they be royalty? A customer arrived and politely greeted the shop owner. Excuse me, but the owner couldn't take his eyes off those kids. Leo's attention was caught by a doll with rabbit ears, which had a cute red ribbon tied around its neck. She gently picked it up with affection. Romeo gave Leo a slightly judgmental look. You really want to buy it, Captain? You like dolls? Aren't those for girls? Leo retorted irritably. Hey, who made the rule? That only girls can like stuffed dolls? Romeo, at a loss for a comeback, said, Fair enough. Leo asked hesitantly, But do you guys have any money? Callis calmly replied, I don't. Romeo fumbled around in his pockets. Me neither. Because we never need to use money. Leo placed her remaining hope on Griffith, asking with sparkling eyes, Griffith, you definitely have money, right? You're the smartest. You must have some. Griffith calmly replied, Yes, I have money. Leo immediately cheered. Out of all my subordinates, you're the only one who can help. Lend me some. I'll pay you back. 2, Griffith said generously. It's not that much money anyway, you don't have to pay me back. Leo was overjoyed. Really? Does that mean I can buy another doll then? Griffith sighed a bit helplessly. Seeing how happy you are, just do whatever you want. Leo couldn't stop praising Griffith. You're the best, Griffith. You really are a good person. Leo kept looking at him with gratitude. In the original story, there are 2 plot lines involving the doll, and the first is about Oscar. Oscar, one of the candidates, had a one-sided love for the female lead, Juliana. When he heard that the female and male leads were getting married, he immediately went to see the female lead, facing her with his belated confession. Juliana gently but firmly rejected him. Here, you take this. This is one of the stuffed dolls my father and brother bought for me. It's very cute, isn't it? Don't tell my brothers, okay? I'm all grown up now. It feels a bit strange to be given a stuffed doll, but I really like it. It gives me a sense of lifelong protection. Consider this a gift to you. Juliana's father and brother had sent her so many stuffed dolls that she was in the process of getting rid of them. So she ended up giving a stuffed doll to anyone she saw, but this all happens much later. This doll becomes the one and only special doll for Oscar, the man called the red-eyed monster. Oscar, who killed his own father to ascend the throne. Just thinking about how I fearlessly gave Juliana the plush doll, I'm slowly breaking free from the nightmare that has tormented me. I'm not the female lead, so I don't know if this gift will have any effect. I just hope his heart can find some peace. Leo gleefully chose 2 rabbits. I want this one and that one. Kalis began to look at the rabbit with a sense of disbelief. And 2 rabbits at that? Griffith spoke up and asked, One for Oscar? Romeo and Kalis froze. What? 2 identical dolls? Oh my. Kalis suddenly got excited. What the heck? So that's what this is about, dolls. Then can I buy one? Griffith immediately shot Kalis down. Not you. Kalis angrily cursed. Hey, you're so shameless. Romeo also asked excitedly, What about me? Can I get one? Griffith refused without a second thought. You can't either. In the end, Griffith also got an earful from Romeo. You scumbag! Those 2 just stood there staring daggers at Griffith, so then Griffith sighed helplessly. Finally, he had no choice but to say, Oh, for heaven's sake, just pick one each. Romeo and Kalis cheered. I'm gonna buy the biggest one. The 2 of them ran towards the doll cabinet. Which one should I choose? Griffith yelled, Buy the smallest one. Leo stood watching them tease each other. Heh. She cradled the rabbit in her hands. Now it has become my very own doll. Why does this make me so happy? I want to help Oscar's heart, and there's not a shred of falsehood in that. But the reason I chose a doll is, I'm not. Maybe it's because Jelly would want a plush doll, but I won't act like the original protagonist. But it might give rise to greed. But if I have this child, it will surely be fine. The second story related to the doll, I absolutely cannot let that happen. The female lead Juliana in the original novel was a young lady whom everyone adored, incredibly gentle, but she did not live in a happy environment from the start. Her biological father was an abusive man who mistreated Juliana. Juliana's miserable life continued until she met someone. That person was someone everyone thought was dead, the former emperor of the Olaria Empire, Perseus Olaria. Later, Perseus fell into his younger brother's trap, losing his beloved wife and newborn daughter. After being stripped of his imperial title, he went into hiding with the twin princes for a very long time. Juliana's mother became Perseus's wife, acting as a supporter to help him reclaim the throne. This was a contract marriage. Therefore, Juliana became the emperor's daughter. Perseus gathered his original ministers and those who were dissatisfied with Lydius's regime. It took 15 years after his throne was stolen for the emperor to finally be able to execute his younger brother, the moment the true emperor of the Olaria Empire returned. For reference, at this point in time, Crown Prince Leo had already left. In the novel, the minister who always held a grudge against Lydius had been continuously poisoning him. When he finally met his end, Juliana became the sole queen of the empire and lived a dreamlike life. She wanted to be closer to Emperor Perseus, which was a happy time her biological father could not give Juliana. Wanting to hold her father's hand like a normal child, her father yelled, "Don't touch me." Perseus instinctively shook the child's hand away. Smack. Poor Juliana was hurt deeply inside, becoming dispirited, and so was the god. Juliana curled up in her mother's arms, and the little girl asked, "Does father hate me?" Her mother gently comforted Juliana, saying, "It's not like that." Then, Juliana looked up at her mother with teary eyes, but her mother looked ahead and said, "Look at that." Juliana's father was walking over with a giant teddy bear, and he gave it to her. "I scared you earlier. I'm sorry." "I'm not used to people touching me. Can you forgive me?" Juliana reached out and took the teddy bear. "This is great." She hugged it and beamed. "Father doesn't hate me." Juliana's father was stunned for a moment. His eyes went wide at Juliana's cuteness, and her two older brothers peeking through the door had their jaws dropped just like their father. After that incident, Perseus and the two brothers became completely smitten with Juliana, and from then on, they constantly gifted her stuffed dolls. Riley wasn't in this part of the story, as Riley wasn't the main character. Lilia Olaria was 10 years old. Lilia was still living in a sunless tower, after the whole affair of her impersonating Leo from the temple had concluded. What awaited Lilia was to continue living in the tower as before. Lidios and Leo were dead, but this time, it was Perseus who held Lilia's fate in his hands. The officials met daily to discuss how to handle Lilia. The meetings filled with endless opinions about the daughter of the traitor. He adores that other child, even bringing her to the capital to prepare a lavish banquet for her. A rebellious sprout like this should be eliminated early, but she's only a 10-year-old child, and besides, she's the daughter of Princess Iris. We should use her for a political marriage instead, to Marquis Tiberius, who has rendered great service to the crown. Perseus grew tired of the sluggish meetings, and eventually, he didn't even want to hear Lilia's name anymore, so he shelved the issue and left Lilia to live in the tower. He didn't care about his sister's starving daughter, but that was to be expected because Lilia's mother, Empress Iris, was the villain who had tortured Perseus's late wife, the intelligent and lovely Elizabeth. Juliana had everything. Lilia had nothing, only a sad, gaunt face from constant hunger. She didn't even have the energy to be a wicked girl, to be jealous and bully Juliana. In order to survive, she would sneak out into the forest behind the city to forage for fruit. She was nothing more than an uninteresting side character. That day was no different. If she hadn't met Juliana, she would have remained a mere nobody. Lilia approached the garden where Juliana was napping. On the blanket, next to Juliana, was a basket brimming with fresh fruit and delicious-looking pastries. Lilia stared at the basket with intense craving, then she hurriedly grabbed the pastries. Lilia stuffed them into her mouth and ate ravenously. A sudden sound made Lilia flinch. It was just Juliana turning over in her sleep, but she was still sound asleep. Juliana was hugging the teddy bear, looking utterly blissful in her sleep. Lilia's face twisted into a scowl as she watched her. A wave of jealousy made her stomach churn. Suddenly, Lilia's eyes widened as an idea struck her. Drawn in by the sweet scene, a sudden greed overtook Lilia. She knew what she was doing was wrong. Lilia reached for the teddy bear and gripped it tightly. Lilia pulled the teddy bear to her chest. She stole a glance at Juliana, who was still fast asleep, and then began to slowly back away. But still, she wanted to hold this stuffed doll that was a symbol of love. Lilia turned and ran. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out, "Hey, hold on, who are you?" Lilia jumped, freezing in her tracks. Her face went pale as she turned her head toward the source of the voice. Lilia turned her head, her eyes filled with terror. It was a voice full of authority, and also carried a hint of reprimand. "There are thieves in the Imperial City?" one of Juliana's two brothers said as they approached. "How dare you steal from the princess? Have you no shame?" At that same moment, the sleeping Juliana also woke up. She leaned over and looked at her in surprise. "Huh?" Just then, one of the two brothers saw Lilia and was startled. "What are you, bullying my daughter?" Upon hearing this, Lilia panicked and turned her head to look. Her voice trembled slightly as Juliana sat up and was shocked to see Lilia holding her doll. "Huh? My doll?" A loud shout rang out. "Not only did you bully my mother, but you also wanted to steal from my little sister Juliana? How dare you steal in the Imperial City?" Hearing his brother's words, Juliana immediately turned to stop her brothers. "Brothers, don't be like that. Don't say that." Then she turned to Lilia to introduce herself. "Hello, my name is Juliana. That's my favorite doll. Can you give it back to me, please?" Lilia looked at the doll hesitantly, but in the end, she still decided to return the toy to the princess. After getting her doll back, Juliana was very happy and said thank you, but her two brothers were not the same. One said that there was no need to thank a thief, while the other raised his voice. "Hey, aren't you going to apologize?" Receiving no response from Lilia, one of the crown princess's brothers stepped forward and said, "Kneel for me. Apologize to Juliana now," but he was stopped by his own little sister. "Cyrix, Damien, that's enough. Didn't she already give it back to us?" Hearing these words from his sister, he dismissed Juliana. "I know you're very kind, but sometimes you have to act like a princess. You can't just let this kind of thing slide." Hearing that, Juliana looked down with a sad expression and replied, "I know." Next, they walked towards Lilia and spoke. "Hey!" He reached out his hand, speaking with a smile as he pushed Lilia's head down with a murderous tone. "Bow your head 100 times. He began to speak again in a low voice. "Smash your head on the ground 100 times. Lilia struggled to force out a single word. I'm sorry, Your Highness the Princess. 1. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I'm sorry, she continued until a voice called out, Juliana. And 2 people approached. It was the Emperor of the Empire and his loyal aide. Upon hearing the call, the princess turned her head to look and called out, Father! The Emperor walked over to his daughter, picked her up, and said, It's almost time for dinner. Let's go back to the palace. The princess's 2 brothers ran over. Father, you broke the rules. It's our turn to carry Juliana. Lilia could only stand there and watch their family. Suddenly, she met the Emperor's gaze, which was directed at her. He just gave her a cold look before turning away. Juliana, who was gentle with a thief, and Juliana's blindly doting brothers. Emperor Perseus, who was indifferent to everyone except Juliana as their images surfaced. They abandoned Juliana like a prop on a stage. Juliana was a girl whom no one loved. Back in the present, inside a room, Oscar sat on the bed with his head down. Lilia opened the door, walked in, and called out, Oscar, we're back. After a moment, Oscar looked over at them and replied, Hey, welcome back, Captain. Suddenly, what caught Oscar's eye was a stuffed rabbit, one with red eyes just like his. Before Oscar could process it, Lilia spoke up. I went out to buy this for you, he asked uncertainly. For me? Lilia knelt down on the floor and answered gently, Her finger moved closer to the soft white rabbit as she continued. This doll will help you share your sadness and pain, and it will always protect your heart, Oscar. His expression slowly turned to one of surprise and warmth. Romeo spoke up. The captain is so good at saying cheesy stuff. Griffith added, so childish. Are you really the same age as us? Kalis added. Sometimes I seriously doubt it. Hearing them, Lilia flinched and asked, a little annoyed, What? Didn't you guys buy a whole bunch of dolls too? The 3 of them looked away evasively, and Oscar, staring at the doll, asked, So we all have matching stuffed dolls? Lilia said smugly. That's right, isn't it, Oscar? Even though they say that, just a moment ago they were insisting they weren't getting matching stuffed dolls like us. We're absolutely not buying one. They're just 10-year-old kids after all. The other 3 turned bright red, and Romeo yelled angrily, Captain, you're the same age as us. He shoved his bear in Lilia's face, saying, Just hold this for me. Lilia casually teased him, We're not on the same level. I'm actually only 7 years old. Romeo didn't back down. Yeah, right, what a joke. Not long after, night fell, and they all fell asleep in one bed. Lilia was still awake, lying on her side and staring intently at the white rabbit in her hands. She whispered quietly, Mine. It's only mine. Her hand gently stroked the bear as she drifted off to sleep, remembering how much fun they all had playing with their stuffed dolls. And so she fell asleep, happy with the thought, I'm not jealous of Juliana's doll. This is my treasure. The next evening, a voice called out, Good news! The priests finally agreed to give us another bed. That should lessen the damage from Romeo's sleep thrashing, Callis said, but it won't stop it completely. Griffith pouted. That's so mean. Romeo, however, quickly jumped onto the bed with an annoyed look and said, I only knocked you off the bed 2 or 3 times. Whatever, just go to sleep already, you guys. Then he seemed to hear something and sat up. Romeo looked out the window. Huh? It started raining. Looks like it's going to rain really hard. Griffith added, I'm turning off the lights. Good night, everyone. Outside, loud thunder began to crack, and as Romeo slept soundly, he rolled right off the bed. And then he hit the floor and yelled, Ah! The fall woke him up instantly, and he groaned softly, Ah, He was startled when he suddenly heard someone crying. Sob. He looked over at a lump under a blanket right by the window. Sob, 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 sob. He knew immediately that it was Oscar. Then, he glanced at Lilia's bed. She was fast asleep. Romeo called out to her, Leo, startling her awake. Leo. Lilia slowly sat up and asked, What is it? Romeo said urgently. Leo, get up, it's Oscar, Oscar's having one of his fits again. Lilia panicked when she heard that. Oscar. Romeo explained, He can't breathe, I was about to call a priest. Lilia immediately put her feet on the ground. I know, I'll go check on him. They both went over and called out to Oscar. Suddenly, Griffith and Kalis were standing in front of Oscar's bed. Holding a flickering lamp, they called out to Leo when they saw her. Lilia froze, her eyes widening in alarm as she called Oscar's name. At that moment, Oscar sat trembling beside the bed, his head bowed low, his hands clamped tightly over his ears. Seeing this, Lilia frantically ran to him and called Leo's name. She raised a hand to his face to comfort him. Leo, look at me. Please look at me. Oscar looked at her with bloodshot eyes, tears and snot streaming down his face. Lilia gently reassured him. That's right. Breathe in slowly. It's okay. She placed one of her hands on her heart and the other on his shoulder, saying, Follow my rhythm. Oscar started to do as she said, and she praised him. That's right. You're doing very well. The thunder outside boomed again, making him jump in fear. Seeing this, Lilia called out Leo's name, and Oscar spoke up fearfully. Every time it rains, father would yell at mother, Mother. Lilia heard this and looked at him with a pained expression, thinking, his mother passed away on a rainy day. Lilia placed a hand on his shoulder, gently comforting him. Don't be afraid. It's just raining. Nothing bad is going to happen. She helped Oscar back to the bed and carefully tucked him in. Lilia fell silent, a bit troubled. I knew from the start this wouldn't be enough. Noticing the rabbit on the bed next to his pillow, she picked up the small rabbit and placed it near Oscar's face. She smiled gently and said, Oscar, from now on when you're scared, talk to it. Talk to it just like you talk to me. Hearing that, Oscar reached out and took the stuffed rabbit. He pressed his face against the stuffed animal and replied, Lilia smiled softly, feeling a bit relieved, then turned her head to the side, noticing something. The other 3 people in the room were also watching, holding their lamps and waiting. Callus spoke up, Hey, is this kid possessed or something? The moment she heard him, she became furious. You jerk! She walked over to Callus and pinched his cheek. Watch your mouth. What do you mean possessed? Callus yelped in pain from the pinch. Ow, that hurts. It hurts. Then Griffith asked about the situation. So, do you know why he's like this? Lilia replied cautiously. Of course. Then, she let out a sigh. Lilia stood before the 2 of them and explained. Let me tell you 2. I've already told Romeo. The reason I don't think Oscar is possessed. Under the flickering lamplight, she told them, the reason he's become like this is, Leo said while hugging the stuffed rabbit, sitting among the children. Do you all understand what I mean? It's just psychological trauma. Every one of you surely has 1 or 2 things you're afraid of, right? Romeo nodded along with her, while Oscar looked at Leo in a daze, hesitantly cradling the white rabbit in his arms. I'm, hungry. If I say that, they'll definitely think it's weird. She bowed her head slightly, hesitating. I'm afraid of the Empire's people going hungry. Hearing this, Callus let out a sigh of relief and threw his hands up, saying, What kind of nonsense is that? Well, you'll definitely be a good emperor in the future. Griffith nodded in admiration, as expected of the Crown Prince, truly on another level. Then, Leo seized the opportunity to ask them in return, So what are you guys afraid of? Oscar hugged the stuffed rabbit tightly, his expression a bit tense. I'm, Father, Romeo, sitting next to him, also stammered his answer. For me, it's monsters. As for Griffith's turn, he crossed his arms and stated firmly, I don't have any. Seeing that, she could only think to herself, even if you had a rabbit, you wouldn't say it. Then Leo looked curiously over at Callus. Callus, what about you? Though his words could falter, he was no less confident than Griffith. Me? How could I be afraid? Even when my uncle sent wolves to kill me, didn't I end up fighting them off? Leo was exasperated by Callus's words. You should know fear. Suddenly the shy Oscar chimed in. I know what Callus is afraid of. Callus frowned in confusion. What, kid, what are you trying to say? He looked at the stuffed rabbit in his hands and delivered his verdict, Gee, girls. Oscar immediately recounted the image of Callus running away in embarrassment right before his eyes. I saw it. The last time a girl was talking to you, you panicked and ran away. You ran away. Callus is afraid of talking to girls. At that very moment, Callus's face turned as red as a tomato, and he loudly denied it. That's not true. I've never done that. As soon as he finished, he lunged toward Oscar, but luckily, Griffith stopped him just in time. Take back what you just said right now, Oscar. Romeo quickly jumped in front of Oscar to shield him, trying to calm down the struggling Callus. Hey, calm down. He's only just started getting better. He was relentless, continuing to argue. What the hell does that have to do with me? Get out of the way. Let me go. Calm down, you idiot. Everyone knows you get shy in front of girls. What? You? Hey, Griffith, stop fanning the flames. Suddenly a strange sound was heard, making the argument stop abruptly as they all turned in one direction. It turned out to be Leo, who burst out laughing so hard her eyes squeezed shut upon seeing them. What the heck are you guys doing? Finally, the argument came to the quickest end possible. Callus looked at her, a bit sulky. You don't have to laugh like that. Leo just kept laughing to her heart's content. But it's just so funny. He could only let out a helpless cry. Seriously. Watching the scene unfold, Romeo smiled gently and whispered to himself, Now we know what we're afraid of. Of course, that didn't apply to the other 2. Callus was still scowling while Griffith was perfectly calm. Suddenly, he raised his hand and spoke his mind. So now, how about everyone says what they like? Oscar looked confused. Romeo calmly explained to him, it can be food, or animals, books, or plays. Even your favorite artist is fine. Anything works, just say a few things you guys like, Leo replied while wiping away. A tear from laughing so much. This is way more fun than talking about things we're afraid of. At this, he rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Things I like? Beside him, Callus crossed his arms, concentrating hard on remembering something. There are so many, it's really hard to choose. Once again, Oscar looked at the stuffed rabbit in his hands and unconsciously said, I like. She too hesitated, thinking along with them. And as for me, Leo's narration began over a warm image of the five of us gathered together. That night, we talked about so much: likes, dislikes, strengths, and weaknesses. It was as if we wanted to fill in all the time we hadn't understood each other, paying no mind to the rain and thunder outside. We laughed loudly and talked all the way until dawn. The scene slowly faded into a montage of us spending the beautiful seasons of our innocent youth together. That day, the five of us grew even closer, celebrating each other's birthdays. After spending the imperial holidays together through the changing seasons, we had become what you could call friends. When I came to my senses, I realized 2 years had gone by in a flash. I was brought back to reality by the soft voice of some girl. Leo. Your Highness the Crown Prince. A young girl with 2 puffy pigtails shyly held out a letter to Leo. Please accept this. She held the letter for a long moment. Then Leo took it and gently touched it to the corner of her lips, politely thanking the girl. Thank you, I will treasure it. It was just a simple thank you, but it made the little girl's heart flutter, and even the others standing nearby watched her retreating back. They couldn't stop whispering to each other. Why is Crown Prince Leo so gentle now? I'm going to write a letter too. Leo was now in a room with a desk piled high with colorful letters, and she gently placed the one she just received on it. A sudden voice caught Leo's attention. You got another letter? It was Callus's voice as he walked out of the bathroom. With Griffith. Don't you get tired of getting letters every day? He also chimed in with a few questions for Leo. Didn't you guys say you were going to the library? So where did you end up going? She hesitated before asking them. Is your sword practice over? Callus replied in a whining tone. Yeah, I'm starving. Griffith replied, That's because you guys run around like wild horses. He waved his hand dismissively, his expression indifferent. Well, sorry, I guess our swordplay isn't as refined, Leo asked curiously. What about the others? Griffith then explained clearly to her. They take too long to bathe, so we came out first. They'll be out in a bit, right? Suddenly, someone came running in right after Griffith spoke. It was none other than Romeo and Oscar, who had also just finished bathing. So Oscar called out, Captain? He flashed a gentle smile from behind the white towel he was using to dry his shiny golden hair. Are you there? Leo drew out her word hesitantly. Suddenly, he held out both hands, which were full of letters, towards Leo, Captain this. Callus, who was watching everything, was completely shocked. Oscar, you, Romeo, standing behind him, quickly clarified Oscar's easily misunderstood action. It's not what you think. This is what the cleric gave us for you, Captain. She took the letters and smiled lightly. Is that so? Thank you. Leo opened a letter and read it, thinking to herself, Have you all gotten taller, except for me? An image of the dazed but still beautiful Oscar flashed in her mind. I've been eating and drinking well, so I've grown a lot taller here. But for even the lovely Oscar to be taller than me, it hurts the captain's majestic pride. While I was resting because I was unwell, their swordsmanship just kept getting better, and it feels like I'm the only one being left behind. Leo returned to reality, she sighed and announced, You guys go get changed, then we'll go to dinner. All right. They replied in unison and quickly went to change as Leo requested, while she stared thoughtfully at the letter in her hand. The handwriting was messy, but Leo could still make it out. Olaria Empire, Emperor Lidios. In the middle of a spacious and comfortable room, with golden sunlight streaming through the window, Lilia's small figure looked incredibly lonely. Her eyes stared emotionlessly at the letter's contents, and Lilia's hand clenched the paper resentfully. Outside, the 4 friends were in high spirits after changing their clothes. Callus waved and called out, Hey Leo, let's go get lunch. She was still affected by that letter, her gaze just a cold glance. Leo didn't bother to answer and turned to walk away. Seeing his call ignored, he confusedly tried to stop her. Hey! Leo, where are you going? Why are you just walking off? She harshly brushed Callus's hand off her shoulder. Raising her voice, she snapped, Don't touch me! He looked stunned, his hand frozen in midair. Leo! Oscar rushed forward with a worried look on his face. Captain, what's wrong? Is something the matter? Is there anything we can do to help you? The reply she gave was a harsh refusal. You're so loud, don't talk to me. This sudden change in attitude left him unsure how to react. Romeo had to step in and say, Hey, what's gotten into you? They're just worried about you, Griffith remarked. You're not telling us why. This isn't like you. Lilia muttered to herself, asking them as much as she was asking herself. Not like me? What in the world is considered like me anyway? Her hand clenched so tightly it trembled, reflecting her owner's emotions. You all don't know anything. After saying that, Lilia left them all behind and ran off. This series of confusing actions made everyone worry. Oscar whispered, Captain. She ran all the way back to her room, slammed the door shut, and panted heavily. She took a few quiet steps into the room. Lilia sank into a chair, and as her impulsive feelings subsided, she thought, that was terrible. But I don't know what to do other than this, just like an idiot, even now. A letter from Emperor Lidios of the Olaria Empire. The contents were nothing special, it just said, "Don't forget your duty, and be obedient." Afraid my secret would be revealed, he wrote it as a warning. Even if he didn't write to me, with the silencing spell, I wouldn't be able to say anything anyway. It seems the Emperor is very worried, however. Just a few words were enough to remind me of my own situation. The fake Crown Prince Leo. I've been with everyone for the past 2 years. We've talked about so many things, but I haven't told a single truth. Not my name, my status, or my gender. It's all fake. 1 year after we part ways, the 4 of them will find something out. The news of Prince Leo's death. At first I had hoped for that too. Lilia remembered what she had told herself in the past. Forgetting the 3 years at the temple will be fine. It's all going according to the script anyway, and then I'll never see them again. From the hassle of pretending to be the crown prince to being free from those troublesome kids, that's what I originally thought. But the happy times I spent with everyone, at some point, made me start wishing this life could continue forever. I was so immersed in joy that I even forgot I was just an imposter. Everyone, what will happen when they hear that I've died? Romeo, Oscar, Griffith, Kalis, they're all so gentle they'll surely be heartbroken. What if they get the news during the war against the dragons? What if the shock is too great and they get hurt in battle? Rather than that, it would be better to make them despise me, to put some distance between us. Maybe that would be for the best. As she was lost in thought, a voice startled her. "Captain!" All 4 of them were gathered in her room, making Lilia's voice catch in her throat. Why are you all here? You're not allowed in here." Romeo stepped forward first, his expression firm. "Seeing you like this. How could we not be concerned? If we did something to upset you..." She didn't let him finish his sentence. She yelled, "Be quiet! You don't need to worry about me." Oscar looked bewildered. "Captain, you're being really weird." He didn't give up, persisting. "Hey, if something's wrong, just tell us." Kalis chimed in. "What the hell is going on?" "We can't know unless you tell us," the most rational one in the group pointed out. "Although we don't know what happened, we can all see you're doing this on purpose." Oscar moved closer to Lilia, his voice stuttering but conveying his sincere feelings. "Pain. Suffering. Didn't you say we were supposed to share it all? You're the one who told me that, Leo." He took her hand, his voice filled with sincerity. "You can lean on us no matter what's wrong. I want to help you." Hearing those comforting words left Lilia speechless. Oscar became even more worried seeing her expression. "Captain." The hand he was holding trembled slightly. Their concern shattered Lilia's facade, and her emotions came flooding out as tears streamed down her face. In a moment of weakness, Lilia confessed, If I... She tried to suppress her emotions, her entire body trembling. Lilia lowered her head, her resolve hardening. Even if I die, I hope you all won't be sad." Those words made Oscar's blood-red eyes fly open. "What?" Romeo, incredulous, pulled a handkerchief from his pocket. "What are you talking about? Did you have a nightmare or something? Or are you saying that our days together are numbered? Are you in a bad mood?" Oscar gestured with his hand, signaling no. "Even when we return to our own countries, we can still meet up right away in the Frenzied Dragon Annihilation Squad. Even though the Frenzied Dragon Annihilation Squad is dangerous, I'll protect you like a big brother. I will never let anyone hurt or kill you." Her head remained bowed as she spoke softly. "I might not be able to join the Frenzied Dragon Annihilation Squad. I might die before that." "Leo, what's going on? Is some faction trying to kill you?" Lilia tried to answer evasively. "Someone has taken my throne. My health is poor, so even if I can't join the Frenzied Dragon Annihilation Squad, don't be disappointed. You all must fight safely and return victorious." Her words sounded like a last will, and for a moment, no one dared to answer. Then, a soft voice spoke up. "Don't," causing her to ask, "What?" Oscar's lips trembled. "I don't want that to happen. I don't." Captain, you can't die." "No, you can't. You're not allowed to die." He burst into tears, just like Lilia, making Romeo even more flustered. "Hey, Oscar, why are you crying too?" Lilia's face was flushed, and tears streamed endlessly from her eyes, which were as clear as an autumn lake. She looked at his innocent face. Right now, Oscar might be a crybaby, but in the future, after obtaining the long-sealed demon sword, Oscar Herbert becomes an immortal being. Then she glanced over at Kalis. In the original story, despite being a one-armed warrior, he could freely wield a greatsword, one that no one else could even lift, the mercenary Kalis Asta. Next was Griffith. Possessing the Holy Emperor Grease, his divine power was stronger than even the master of the Holy Sword, Griffith Nisia. And finally, Romeo, who obtains a dragon's heart and becomes the youngest tower master in history. The dragon-tongue mage Romeo Roseberry kept lying to me, befriending future heroes. I was nothing. I felt so proud, which is why it hurt so much. Why? Why am I even with you guys? Lilia bit her lip. You guys will become the great main characters who go down in history. So, even if I'm not in this world anymore, you absolutely can't be sad. The day passed, and a new morning began. After a night of heart-to-heart talks, the group's relationship returned to normal. One of them knocked on the door. Is the captain still asleep? Callus teased. Don't tell me he's crying by himself again. No way, Romeo retorted. But Callus continued. Why aren't you coming out? Crying again? Inside, Lilia's hands gripped the blanket tightly, trembling with anger. She buried her face in the pillow in embarrassment, getting laughed at by them again. These insensitive jerks. I'm going crazy. I'm really gonna lose my mind. I cried so much yesterday. How am I supposed to face them? It's so embarrassing. Please, just erase all memories of me crying from your minds. After tossing and turning for a while, Lilia muttered to herself, but I already told them about Leo's death. That should be enough. Maybe it will be less of a shock when they suddenly get the news about my death. But outside, Callus was still rambling on. Seems like he's really crying. Hey, crybaby Leo, crybaby! Her face darkened. She could let the others go, but there was no way she was letting Callus off the hook. But it's useless since I'm just one person. Right now, I only have half a year left at the temple. I should make more memories with everyone before it's too late. We might never see each other again after this. Seeing that Lilia wasn't answering, the person outside reminded her, Leo, today is Griffith's birthday. Are you really not coming out? She quickly put the stuffed rabbit on the bed and replied, Sorry, I was asleep and didn't hear you. I'll be right out. The scene changes to a brightly decorated room. Everyone shouted together, Happy birthday, Griffith! With his usual stoic face, he replied softly, Thanks, everyone. The four of them each held out a letter. Here's your present. Sending letters on birthdays, it's kind of like a tradition. Thanks.